Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners work session on Tuesday, May 4th. I'm Kelly McNicholas Curry. I'm the board chair, and I'm thrilled to have so many staff from our departments here in the room with us for our first item. Joining us from home are Commissioners Steve Child, Greg Poshman, and Francie Jacober. And Vice Chair Patty Clapper is in California with her family today and won't be joining us, but we'll think of her from afar. And our first order of business, which I'm just so thrilled to do, is a proclamation of the BOCC recognizing Public Service Week. And I do want to honor just all of our staff. We have the greatest staff, I think, in the whole country, and I'm just thrilled to work with each of you every day. And I'm honored to see so many of you here in the room. Maybe Grassroots can just pan out and show everyone who's with us. We have our wonderful folks from the clerk and recorders, elections, recording, motor vehicle. We also have treasurer's office staff. We have our BITS, our IT folks helping us run the Zoom today. And I'm surrounded by our sheriff's office folks as well. And I'm just really, I've missed you. So nice to see. I haven't seen so many of our staff in one place in over a year, and it's just, it has me a bit emotional, to be honest. So I'm going to go ahead and read this, and then we'll invite other commissioners to make remarks as well. So Public Service Week, May 3rd through 7th, 2021. Whereas public employees at the federal, state, county, and city levels dedicate their careers to public service by contributing to such industries as healthcare, education, public safety, conservation, and national defense. This week, we recognize all those who dedicate their lives to this noble pursuit, and we celebrate the tremendous difference they make every day for our community. And whereas these dedicated public servants perform their duties with compassion, professionalism, and commitment to those they serve, there is no greater opportunity to help more people or to make a bigger difference. During Public Service Recognition Week, we honor the people who power our local, state, and federal governments, and we recommit to tackling the toughest challenges with the most talented workforce. And whereas it is appropriate to designate May 3rd through 7th, 2021 as Public Service Week to honor and recognize all public employees and remind the citizens of Pickens County of the importance of public service. And whereas Pickens County is honored to join other counties across the nation in extending appreciation and gratitude to all public employees for their continued dedication. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Pickens County recognizes May 3rd through 7th, 2021 as Public Service Week. And I recognize all of you as amazing public servants. And so I'll go ahead and invite the board to make any remarks. Other commissioners, Francie.
Well, Kelly might miss you all, but I really miss you all because most of you I don't even know at all. So I'm committing to start coming in, and hopefully some of you will be in the building, and I'm going to walk around and meet you, and hopefully you'll come find me when I come in on Tuesdays and every other Thursday, and I hope we can get all of us back in pretty soon, and as soon as, I'm pretty sure most of you are vaccinated, so hopefully we'll have the government building mask mandate removed at some point, and we can see each other's faces. Thanks for all the good work you guys do.
All right, thanks, Francie. Greg and then Steve.
Great, yeah, thank you. This is really an honor, and I'm just thinking about, what could I possibly say to all these people that work so hard to support our community, and I guess I've been reflecting a lot lately on, as citizens, we're all talking about what our rights are, but I also wonder what are our responsibilities. And I think the public service people that we're honoring here are the ones who live the responsibility of being a citizen in a democracy and making things work. And you do it so well that it becomes transparent to the general public. Most people have no idea how things work. They resent big government because that's been the word going around the zeitgeist, but they don't really know what it means. What they don't understand is what it takes and what dedication it takes for people like you to make things go, to keep things safe, to protect us and make all these systems we rely on work. And I'm just shocked. I keep thinking, boy, do we need more civics education so people will just understand this? And I confess, I'm new enough to the understanding and the breadth of what public service means myself. So I'm speaking as one of the ones who has a window on it now as an elected official. So all I can say is thank you, and this is well deserved. And I'm looking forward to seeing more public servants emerge once they understand that responsibilities come with rights. Thank you all.
Thanks, Greg. And Steve.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm taking a page out of my dad's book. When he was a county commissioner, he always said that he did not consider himself a politician ever, but he was a public servant. And so I've always viewed being a county commissioner as a public service job. And I guess it's hitting home today that we aren't the only ones who are public servants, but all of the employees who work for the county are there to provide services for the public. That's the reason we exist as a county, to provide these services. And all the great employees, and I agree with you, Kelly, we just have an awesome staff here in the county. And they make the county commissioners look really good, that we have such a good county and we do all these neat things. It's not the 5 commissioners who make it that way. It's all the employees who work for the county. So thank all of you from the bottom of my heart.
Francie, go ahead.
Yeah, Steve, that's what I should have said the first time around, but I brag to people all the time about the staff at Pitkin County. I had no idea how much work you all did until I came into this office. And there's no question about where the bulk of the work lies. I mean, we're the ones that show up on TV every once in a while, but you guys do the work, and it is incredible how much work you do. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. And you know, this year it seems to be an even greater honor to be among all of you than even in years past. I know it's been really rough. We've all individually had to sort of adjust our work lives to continue to provide the services to our community, and departments have had to shift in how you provide those excellent services. And you know, IT's had to kind of step up and create whole new strategies and tools for everyone to use to be able to do that. And the clerk's office has had to figure out how you accommodate customers when we have to do it in such a different way, and run an election where you don't have people able to kind of walk into offices. And you know, the treasurer's department having to address and deal with so many new people coming into the community, and figuring out how to do all of your work, I think, in flexible ways. And then our sheriff's department, you know, in a year where community policing is on everybody's mind, to really be a standard for how we do that. And so I'm just, you know, I just have you all in my thoughts and care, and have appreciated just how much you've been able to deliver. And I hope that you find the work rewarding. I find it incredibly rewarding to work with you all every day. And so thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kelly, is this where we apologize for making all this work for them?
Sure thing. Yeah. And please know, I hope you all know all this stuff. You know, I think all of us, our doors are always open, our ears are always available to you. And, you know, we may not say that enough, but I just want you to know that that's always there. So,
Thank you.
all right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks
It's great
so
to
much.
see you. Yeah. Okay. We will move on to regular agenda items here. Let's see. The next item on our agenda is airport advisory discussion. We're a little early, so Rich, are you with us?
I am here.
Okay.
Thank you, Kelly and commissioners. And you know, on behalf of John Peacock, who's not here today, and Phyllis and I, as the manager and deputy managers, we very much appreciate you, board. You guys set some great guardrails for us as staff, but you give us freedom to do our work, and we absolutely know that you appreciate it. It's just an end as in a single day that you give us thanks. You guys are always so kind and supportive. So we do thank you. You guys are a great board to work with. We love working for you. We love working for this community. So thank you again for that support. So I did invite John Healy to be a part of this, just in case there might be some questions regarding this final product. But this is an agenda item that was scheduled actually on the day that we had to evacuate, or you all had to evacuate. They were in the building that day, unfortunately. So we've had the opportunity now to bring this back to you. If you recall, we had a draft that was put together. It was based on information received from different sectors that I'd reached out to, and then also kind of fashioned around some of our existing boards. We ran it through the first gauntlet here with you all, and I do know that Greg, you sent a couple of comments to us in written form, which I believe now have been split up and put into this in the proper locations. And then Chairperson Kelly, she spent a lot of time on this. She had committed to go back and kind of help us refashion this. So we had the opportunity to sit down together, Kelly, myself, and County Manager Peacock, and went through each of this. Kind of, we think we've got it pretty well settled up, but there are still some discussion points that we can go through. And I just don't know, Kelly, the best way to do this is to share the screen and walk through it. I do know you guys are a board that does your homework, so there's no doubt in my mind you've already read it. So I don't know if you want to just jump to spots that you would like to just discuss, or how you want to do it, Kelly. But I'm open to moving you guys through this however you would like.
Okay. Yeah, I would suggest go ahead and pull it up, and we can just collect folks' comments, you know, from start to finish.
Okay. So are you able to see that now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'll just, I guess, summarize, Rich, let me know if this is correct, but I think some of our takeaways that you and I worked on from the board's input was, you know, how we called out the visioning document in this and referred to it, dealing with the number of the terms and the number of appointees, defining, you know, who's a voting member and non-voting member, dealing with the ex officio officers. I think that might have been the most of it, just so the board's memory is a little bit refreshed, I think.
Yeah, I believe you're right, Kelly. One of the big takeaways was making sure that we at least took a look at the visioning document and had some of those components rolled into this. So I think we've captured those. So, so if you want to just start stepping through it, we can certainly do that.
Sure. Is it possible for you to just show one page at a time so it's a little bit bigger on the screen?
I was working on that earlier. How do you? Does anybody know how to do that?
Maybe under view.
I hit my view.
Layout.
Go to layout. What do you think, Scott?
There it is. Oh, no, that's...
Okay.
Yeah, see, it's not allowing me to put it in the...
That's bigger.
The very bottom right.
Is that better?
That's bigger, yeah.
She's got the very left one selected.
Okay,
Oh,
for
on
some
the very
reason,
bottom of the
doesn't give me
screen?
one...
Skylar is trying to give me tips here. If you go all the way to your bottom rule bar, and there's like 3 little icons there that might
Try the
change
one in the
your view.
middle.
Well, so I've got this one, and let me
Sorry.
see if I can then...
Maybe.
Whoa. This is just always part of doing business, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting there. Is this helping at all?
I think so. Everyone else think that's
And
pretty good?
it still
That
says
looks good.
Well, that's
web
pretty good.
layout at the top. Change it to
Wow.
print layout. At
There
the
we go.
bottom.
Well, I learned something today. That's awesome.
Well done, Rich.
Yeah, it's always you know, it's tough enough doing these with you all, but having to do this on the fly is even a little more nerve-wracking for me. So, but thank you. So, okay, I guess the best way, Kelly, do you want to walk the board through it? Do you want me to? What's your preference?
Why don't you go ahead and do it, and I'll keep eyes
Okay,
on
so-
hands.
Okay, the name, I think the only really the ad that we had there was just kind of the abbreviation, the AAB, which is just the advisory board for Francie. She likes these acronyms, is that right?
Yeah, love them.
So really no changes there. The definition stayed pretty much the same. The purpose didn't change a whole lot. It is to create the advisory board of citizen volunteers to represent a balance of diverse and viewpoints and to advise the BOCC. And that's what this is. I think there can be a little bit of confusion of their role, but their purpose is to advise you all on policy and items that come forward. So the membership includes users, service providers, neighbors, and community members. And again, with a focus on the high quality of life and exceptional service delivery that we expect out at the airport. I don't think there's much more there. Policy standpoint, and I don't know that I need to read this to you. I guess I can just let you guys read it. And Section 3, when we talked about additional policies, there was a little bit of discussion on that there's time to time where there's additional administrative or operational policies that can guide the board. Prior to any resolution for adopting those related to the board, those shall be presented to you all. There was some concern about adopting policies outside of your preview. So I believe we've tightened this up. Now it says, upon your approval, an adopted resolution shall remain in effect no longer than 5 years unless readopted. And I believe earlier that was a 3-year period. So I think we extended that out to 5.
Rich, I do have something, I wasn't sure where to raise it. It might be back under a policy up at the top, but ironically, I know since you and I worked on this, so I guess it's my continuous editing, but proclivity here that I'm wondering if we should include where it says should accommodate communities' air service need and reflect changes in the air service industry. Does it make sense to say aviation technology or something like that in there as well?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be more encapsulating with the air industry or with the aviation industry rather than just air service, because aviation is a much broader scope or span than just the air service.
Yeah, it just might include like safety, like safety improvements and approaches.
Okay.
Would that be okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me what section you're talking about here. I just got lost.
Sure. 2, policy.
Okay, in policy.
Yeah, and reflect changes in the air service industry. It's the aviation industry related to safety.
I could I was thinking air service industry and aviation technology, or if you want to just say in the aviation industry, whatever.
Aviation industry works, sure.
Is that all right?
I would say drop one industry, air service and aviation industry.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
good.
Yep, got it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then down on section 3, just an additional on the last sentence, upon BOC approval, an adopted resolution and shall remain in effect. That's not a sentence. So we need to that's it. Get rid of the and.
There you go.
That's what I was, thank you.
You bet. Okay, principal role. Are there any thoughts or comments there? This is where we did actually reflect back and tie it back to the resolution 105-2020. We felt that was the best way to tie those two together rather than pulling items out and spelling it out, because there's so much in that document.
On the, Rich, on when we reference BOCC Resolution 105/2020, the very first time, I think we should have a parentheses and describe what it is, the common ground recommendation of the, you know, however to define it. Because if somebody doesn't know what that is, reading through here, they'd have a hard time figuring it out, possibly.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I'll just put an asterisk in here to come back and note that.
I have just a little, I think by using the unique experiences along with opinions and recommendations and opinion again, it sounds so subjective. It sounds like it's the subjective opinions of the board that are being passed on. I wonder if maybe take out the second and opinion, or does anybody get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
maybe
agree.
recommend, maybe replace that second opinion with expertise.
Yeah,
would that
something
be?
like that. That sounds a little bit more than, well, I feel like you should do this, you know?
Okay, so that second opinion is here.
No, where it says collective understanding and expertise.
Oh, okay.
And then I would just do, for the next sentence, just the recommendations of the board and take opinions out again.
Yeah, that's good.
Agreed.
Good there? Okay.
Thank you.
I'd love to, I just want to make sure, and Kelly and Rich, because you've spent the most time with this, I look at this as a living document. They're following a set of rules, but we know the situation may change with, you know, the global, national, and regional environment regarding aviation. Do we need to articulate that we anticipate that, and that what we're expecting this board to do is help us with that? And it may be that we don't have to do anything here, but I just wanted to make sure that, you know, if something changes, we're going to anticipate changes coming from the recommendations of this board, or, you know, who knows where it's going to come from, but just anticipating that we'll be thrown curveballs or that things will change. So he's already got it.
How's that?
If it makes, yeah, let's go back and make sure I haven't confused the situation, but I wanted to make sure there was we're future-proofing it to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, I would, to manage expectations a little bit, you know, we're going to adopt these bylaws by resolution, right, John Ely? So, you know, they would have to go through a formal process, which our boards update their bylaws from time to time to do.
That's right. I didn't know if that was a question.
Yeah,
really, but
sorry.
yes.
Thank you. So these will be somewhat fixed, but the process, if we need to change this, you know, is available. Does that make sense, Greg?
Yeah, it makes sense. I just want to make sure I didn't cause a problem or make it more complicated than it needs to be.
So that addition, are you okay with what that says? Current or future changing conditions? I mean, it's just a statement about the policy development around it.
I think that's fine. Sure, I'm okay with it if everyone else is. Thank you.
Okay. The second half of this paragraph, this was pulled from, I believe, the other board bylaws directly out of that, just stating the fact that they can't articulate a position outside of your approval. That's a protection, I believe, that was put in for you all.
As we've seen that this was important in the past regarding other advisory boards. So it was just so clear they weren't if they were speaking for themselves, it was very clear and not speaking for us. So I think this is important. It looks good to me.
Yeah, and I think, John Ely, this was a recent add, I think, to all bylaws, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was the product of a pretty long discussion by the BOCC to add that to all of the citizen board bylaws.
Okay. Okay, responsibilities, functions.
Put a dash in customer facing. Thank you.
You know, that is one nice thing about technology. Being able to do this like this.
Nancy, it's so nice to have another school teacher on the board to help on picking these things up. I'm out of a job now, partly.
No, I don't think so. We good with this one?
I like it and want to make sure I think we're comprehensive, we're inclusive. We mentioned carbon reduction, air pollution, noise, nuisance mitigation, the issues the public is concerned about. I think safety upgrades, this is good.
Yeah, Greg, I think this is where we had plugged in some of those comments that you had made earlier regarding just being a little bit more specific on the function.
Thank you. They look familiar.
They should.
One short little thing in the last sentence. Is it possible to go air pollution, comma, noise, comma, and mitigation efforts?
Yep, we can do that.
And a comma after noise.
Yes, the Oxford
That's always
comma.
new to me, whether you put a comment.
I'll tell you the rule if you want to know it. The only time you don't put a comma in the second to last thing in a list is if it's affixed to the last thing, like man and wife, like children, grandchildren, and man and wife, that kind of thing is when you don't put it in. Otherwise you do.
Is the Oxford comma part of this conversation?
Yep.
Okay, I think we're good there. Thank you for that, Francie. I learned another thing.
Sorry, I do want to, I'm realizing again, I wonder if we need to recognize aviation safety something in this function.
You could say aviation safety and pilot training might be enough. Safety upgrades is part of aviation safety, if that helps, if that's what you were thinking of.
Yeah. Maybe aviation improvements. I don't know. Like up where it says customer-facing operations, long-term planning efforts. Is that getting too far afield?
Well, again, I think I like the idea of the aviation industry side of it, just not airport operations, because I think it could be a lot more inclusive that way. So, ethics, sustainable business practice for airport operations, and
aviation safety and partnerships.
Yeah. I almost wonder if it goes up in the first sentence, but maybe not.
would that be aviation industry related to operations, airport operations?
No, I don't think that's
Partnership?
the right spot for it because, airport operations involves a lot of stuff, right? If it's okay, I would recommend in the first section of that sentence. So customer-facing operations, long-term planning efforts, and aviation improvements. Is that okay? And get rid of we got to go back to our commas. So we will put a comma after operations, delete and
Oh, there we go.
and then a comma after efforts. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. That's all I got on this. Any other comments on that one? No? Okay, we can keep going.
Okay, membership. This is the one that we hadn't fully vetted as a board. We kind of left it open. So John and Kelly and I kind of kicked around numbers and felt that this was probably, I think it was based on, again, listening to you talk about you didn't want to be too big, you wanted not to be too small, but also inclusive. So this will be a good one to read through and make sure that we've hit the mark on it.
Steve?
This section is the one, the term and the appointments, to me, I had more questions about, you know, what numbers should we plug into these? All of our important boards, we are tending to add more members on by putting more alternate member positions and whatnot in. And I'm wondering if 7 is too few, if we were allowed to have 9. And I think 9 might be the maximum by the Home Rule Charter. Is that correct, Rich?
I don't think we have any more than 9, and that may be, I'm not sure if it's Home Rule Charter driven, but I don't think there's any boards that have more than that. Do you know, John?
Yeah, I was having a hard time unmuting, sorry. The charter does not restrict membership to a board like this. So you're free to appoint however many number people that you want, or however many alternate or ex officio members you want to.
So my thought is to go ahead and make it 9 voting members, just to give room for a couple more voices from the community on the board. Or maybe we could say at least 9. Not at least, at 9 or less. I didn't mean at least 9, I meant 9 or less.
9 or fewer.
Maybe we want to have something like that in there to give us the option of having, if we get 9 really good applicants and we limited it to 7 in this and we have to cut 2 people out right at the start, I'd feel bad about that. I'd want to add 2 more in right away.
You know, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think we need to be pretty clear in how many you want in this document. I think if you say up to 9 and it's open, could create some challenges. So I think out of the chute, if it's 9, we need to try to then set up the terms and how they're appointed. You know, Steve, one of the things we did talk about, and it's listed in here, it's on the last sentence of this, is that the BLCC would support boards needing to do subcommittees. One of the things that we found that was really effective was whenever we have a topic that really needs more voices, we would appoint a subcommittee, and that way it's wide open. You could get many more to do that. But whenever you're just doing policy development and making recommendations, you know, 7's a pretty decent number to work with. We think 3, and I think we actually started with 5 and we went up to 7 based on the comments the board had made.
Yeah, I do like that doing the subcommittees, and then other people who have then maybe they just have a special interest in one area. They don't have to be on our advisory board to participate in that then.
Yeah, and make that longer term commitment. They could just be on for a period of time and then, you know, come back if they need to for something else. So.
I'm okay with 7.
Greg?
On the last sentence in that paragraph, Rich, the BOCC will support the board's need. That's a possessive board. You need a possessive
apostrophe on it before the S. Yeah. That's not what I was going to say, but good call, good catch. So I agree with you. Regarding the alternates, I appreciate Steve's concern about. I could easily go to 9 on the board. It's up. We can all decide. We can have a vote on that, I guess, if we want. But regarding the alternates, it looks as if the alternates will all be taken up by the City of Aspen, Town of Snowmass Village, and Town of Basalt, which will all have an ex officio non-voting representative, which means there wouldn't be room for any other alternates on this board. And I think to Steve's point earlier, if I'm interpreting that correctly, you know, there may be, as we're seeing on our other boards, like Board of Health, for instance, we have a lot of people who would probably be an alternate if we had a place for them, who could probably contribute an awful lot. So I'm just wondering if this could have more alternates, and it wouldn't be, you know, I want to bring that up for discussion because it looks like the alternates are taken up by the municipalities.
Like an at-large alternate?
Perhaps, yeah, or the, you know, like for instance, on the Board of Health, the municipality or the electeds have an alternate already so on our Board of Health, that's 3 alternates and 3 people on the board. I think that's useful. So it might be useful for the municipalities to have alternates to their alternate as well.
So Greg,
just
these
want to bring that up.
ex officio from the municipalities aren't voting members. Ex officio means they attend
Right.
meetings more for liaison and communication from the cities to the
Right.
committee, but they don't actually vote.
I understand
Not
that.
alternates.
So maybe they don't need alternates, but I'm just wondering, are they taking up the spaces of the 3 alternates that we have? Those 3 under Section 2 under term, the plus 3 non-voting ex officio members, I think that's already taken by the municipalities. Is that correct?
I don't think we've
Yeah, actually, Greg,
defined alternates.
Are
So
you
Yeah,
thinking
it's-
an alternate
we have
more like a
different-
substitute?
things.
Yeah, it's silent on alternates, that's for sure. I mean, this really is talking about your 7 board members and then the 3 ex officio appointees from the municipalities.
And that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, you could always say there could be room for 2 alternates, but I think we need to define their role. You know, if they're just there to take the place of somebody that could not attend, or you know, you all would have to kind of decide how you would see that play out.
If for some reason we can't reach a quorum, it's great to have an alternate there who's on board and paying attention.
Okay. So
Well, I
there's
think-
several points of discussion I see. You know, the number, whether it be 7 or 9, and then whether we have alternates to this board or not.
Kelly, could we have a thumbs up on 7 or 9 now just to get past that and then move on to alternates?
Yeah, we can do that. Steve, go ahead.
Before we do that, but what about if if we had 2 alternates, and then that means we would have 9, but the alternates would only vote in the case that they were filling in for somebody else, kind of like the alternates now, although of course, I don't know if that would work, but maybe if we didn't have a quorum. I'm just wondering, before we vote strictly on 7 or 9, if we could consider having 2 alternates to make it 9. Would that satisfy you, Steve?
I really like that idea to keep the 7 as the core voting group. The 2 alternates would be there. There'd be 2 more voices to add to the discussion. If a regular member's not there, they could fill in as to vote in case someone else is absent, and that might make the quorum someday when they're short. We could word it so that we don't have to, has the possibility of having alternates. We don't have to appoint alternates if we don't want to. If we don't have enough, you know, people we think are qualified, just leave those open, and someone then at some point could apply to be an alternate.
That's an interesting idea.
That's sort of how like the Senior Services Council has all sorts of alternate positions, which are usually vacant because there's usually, you know, we don't get enough people to fill them, but the possibility is there to fill those, to put somebody in an alternate position. And it's kind of the same way on the P&Z board. You know, different boards, you don't have enough people to fill them all, but the alternate is the empty position that if someone really good comes along and wants to serve you, you have a place you could plug them in real easily then.
So we can add up to 2 alternates, Rich, would be the I guess that would be part of the verbiage. And then
Yeah, what I would like to do, and Kelly, again, if you're getting a thumbs up on all this, if the majority of you want the alternates, what I'll do is I'll work on it. And when we bring this back, this is coming back to you through formal adoption. So we'll make sure we got it written properly by that time.
Great. Also, I wanted to pull up just the BOC can reappoint all members, but why are we limiting it to 2 terms? I go back and forth on this. I know our open space board has had people who've been on the open space board since, the invention of the automobile, and that's great. I appreciate them now, but I also ask questions about terms on boards. So I'm just wondering if 2 terms is too few, and what's the point of turning them over? If we've got a great board, or do we necessarily have to boot them out and bring new people in?
I appreciate that concern, Greg, particularly with things like the airport that moves slowly, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
A long
We lose
horizon,
people,
perhaps.
they never see it done, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I just
Can I
want to
jump
make
in
sure,
with
hold on, Francie, sorry. I just want to make sure that we're clear where we're at. So we're going to add 2 alternates. We're okay with 7 voting members. In total, that could mean that there's 12 individuals around the table at any meeting, at any general board meeting, having a conversation here. And that you guys are good with how we've described the ex officio appointments. Okay, so thanks for that. So now we're on to terms.
Wait,
Oh, sorry,
before
Francie.
you go on, I'm sorry, I have a
Yeah.
couple of grammatical things. So, where we added the apostrophe for boards there, Rich? A few words later, you have subcommittees with an apostrophe.
Oh.
That shouldn't be there.
There you go.
And then the 3-year staggered terms, sounds like you have a term of a year 3 times. So I think you need a dash in the 3-year, and then maybe put the digit at the end of the 3-year.
Maybe that's
Yeah, that looks, well, now it looks like 3 3-year terms.
how about
You need
how about if I just take the number out?
Yeah, take the digit out, just use.
There you go.
Yeah, and then you still need the dash.
Oop.
There, perfect.
Okay.
And then, before we move on, are we gonna change the number of reappointments?
We haven't discussed it. So Greg proposed that item for discussion. Would you like to provide your thoughts on that, Francie?
I agree with you and Greg that they should be able to serve for more than 2 terms, for sure, because once they have developed expertise and familiarity, why would we kick them off?
Okay, other thoughts? Steve?
I would have no term limits for it also. Doing the staggered thing, though, at the beginning, though, is good. So then they're not all coming due at the same time.
Okay, so I would suggest that final sentence in that section 2 read, BOCC has the right to reappoint all members and ex officio members, period.
That's a good idea.
And then do we have to change the 3 sentences above that so it doesn't appear to be just one 3-year reappointment?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about just a second ago.
Great minds think alike.
How's that? With reappointment?
With
Does that
so
work?
without,
With BOCC approved reappointment?
Okay.
possible. With BOCC reappointment possible or something. It's
Approved.
not approval, yeah. There we go, perfect.
Does that work?
Yeah, and then you gotta do the
Sure.
second two, right, same.
Okay. Ah,
Yeah, you should cut and paste.
right, it wouldn't let me do it a minute ago. Trust me, I tried that shortcut.
It's a very intimate look at your skills here, Rick.
I know, really. Did this guy take typing and,
No. Can't
word
you tell?
processing? Just teasing you.
Oh, this is nerve-wracking, you guys.
Oh, that.
After all we said about public servants, and here we
I
are,
know,
always crashing in.
I'm gonna bring the one. I'm the one that's gonna bring the whole concept down.
Putting you through the race.
Sometime I'll tell you about my typing stories. When I was in the Army, I ended up being a typist, even though I wasn't trained for it for a short while. A funny story.
Oh, man. Okay, we're good on those? All right,
I think so.
qualifications. Should I take out the number, Francie, and just get back to just at least 3 months?
I would take the numbers out. I don't think you need them.
Okay.
So do we have we haven't caused any problems with this, just double checking. We need a majority to be full residents of Pitkin County,
Right.
full-time residents of Pitkin County.
Yes.
So maybe, I guess that you've said that above. So a Valley resident could be on the board, but they have to be the minority. Okay.
Correct, and they have to be full-time.
And then non-full-time residents may be on serve on a subcommittee. So we could still have, if somebody's interested, they could be on a subcommittee. That
Yes.
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, like if we had a non-full-time resident who happened to be an expert at airport issues, they could be on a subcommittee, which would be great.
I would remove the word appointed in the second line. That's the only, they're all appointed. That's the only way they get on there. A majority of voting members must reside in Pitkin County.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's the thing we're going to have to be paying attention to, I guess, as board turns over. That's one of the defaults that we have to go back to.
What?
Just making sure the majority remains Pitkin County residents.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we good?
To get really technical, what are we considering the Roaring Fork Valley? If someone lives in Glenwood Springs, if they live in West Glenwood Springs, is that the Colorado River Valley and not the Roaring Fork Valley? Do they have to live on this side of in the Roaring Fork drainage? That's getting real technical, but someone could be borderline depending on what neighborhood they live in.
That's a good point.
Steve, we've used that phrase before, and it has always been interpreted the drainage. So West Glenwood is out, Glenwood Springs is okay, no name is out, so forth.
Okay.
Okay, we good there?
Yeah, I guess I would ask the question for our alternates, do we need to be explicit about where they fit in the qualifications? Like, would we, would we appoint one Pitkin County resident, one non-Pitkin County resident as alternates? I just think we have to think about how to manage that if we're looking at, if that would, mean the quorum of the board at some point would be a majority of non-Pitkin County residents. See what I'm saying?
Good point.
Yeah.
If at least one alternate is a Pitkin County resident, and there's a Pitkin County voting member who's not present, they would be the one to fill the voting position.
But do you need anything on that? Because it says all voting and non-voting board members shall be, and then it says a majority of voting members. Uh-huh.
So you would need 4 out of 7. Say 2 of the 4 are absent one meeting, and your 2 alternates don't reside in Picken County.
What if you took out the word voting, just had a majority of members must be reside in Picken County?
I think
Yeah.
for accountability, when something is voted on, at least 4 need to be Picken County residents. However, we can set that up in the wording.
So do the alternates need to be Picken County residents? We just leave it at that. If you're an alternate, you're going to be a resident.
That would
That
solve
help?
it.
It'd be the easiest way.
Mm-hmm.
Would, I'm not sure it'd be the most just. Being from, down valley, thinking about Carbondale, people
No, I
like
get
that.
it. I'm just looking at the math. So if there's some way to word it so the math works out.
I know, just the language is tricky.
Yeah.
If I could interject a question, I can't scroll back on the screen. Did the board establish that alternates are voting members?
No, we didn't establish that.
They're voting if, in the absence of a principal voting member, the alternates, that's what they're for, right?
Not unless you say so.
Okay.
Well, Rich hasn't had the opportunity to hammer that language
Yeah.
out, but the intent is they would be alternates to voting members.
Okay.
There was a question I had about that. If you have 2 alternates and one person is absent, who gets to be the voting member of those 2 alternates? It could get awkward.
Yeah, I don't know. How do we do that on other boards?
You're an alternate for somebody in particular. Being an alternate myself right now on several boards, I'm the alternate for the commissioner who's not there. But this is not that specific yet.
Right. I think, though, on a lot of boards, that's not the case, right? So like P&Z alternates are alternates to the board, not to like a specific
Like an
position
at-large
in that
alternate.
board. Yeah. I guess I would suggest that we appoint, alternates with staggered terms, and the one with the more seniority or the longer term would be the first one. But I don't know, this is getting more complicated than I've thought about.
That idea works though.
A first alternate and a second alternate. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You look great on your business card.
That's what I would do, and they could have the same, terms could both end at the same time, but we just decide this one's number 1, this one's number 2, so there's no question.
And I'm
Yes.
anticipating,
Hold the seat first.
Rich will have a chance to vet this with other people who know about these things before it comes back to us, right?
Yeah, we can do that. You guys are raising just great questions just on simple operation issues. So these are good to hear. So we'll come back and see if we can put something together. These are just little notes. Those will be changed.
This is a Murphy's Law, trying to prevent Murphy's Law from working, because if something can go wrong, it will, sooner or later.
True.
So Greg, do you list all your boards on your business card?
I can't get Charlotte to print me one lately, so no, I don't. I'm trying to remember what I'm on half the time.
I might turn that to bold and work on that as well. Okay.
Okay.
I just say just put a question mark on there only because maybe that's something to cogitate over. It may be Roaring Fork watershed, but not to take it back what we just did, but just want to have the question mark there so we can make sure to look at it.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
Yeah, sleep on it.
Okay. This is a non-compensated board, similar to your others. And then this removal, again, is directly out of your other boards that this was pulled from.
I had a question on that, Kelly, if I may.
Sure.
Just regarding conflicts of interest, we have an ordinance mentioned there. At some point, we're going to need to attach that ordinance, I think, to the application or something, just so everybody's clear. I went back and reviewed it, and I've got the link to it here. Just regarding conflicts of interest or standards of conduct. And it occurred to me that it's been a long time since I've looked at that, so I pulled it up and took a look at it, and I think we should certainly make it available attached to the application or perhaps even attached to these bylaws. So people really know how to reference it or have it hard copy with it.
What kind of things does it say? Like talking inappropriately to the media or something?
I'm not sure it may mention that, but I think mostly it's, conflicts of interest with industry or conflicts with, personal, issues of personal gain, things like that. I will send it to you right now.
Okay, thanks.
And I guess it's the ordinance itself, maybe it is standard of conduct is the name of the ordinance, but I thought to the last comment that Steve made about making sure we at least name what that ordinance is, I'll make sure that we get that listed here. We could always put, and I don't think, and maybe John Ely, you can give advice on this, but I'm wondering if we can just put attached. Can we just attach the ordinance to the bylaw or not? Do you think?
I to tell you, the best practice is to keep it all in one spot because, like someone mentioned a little bit ago, you have to keep going back and referring as to who can be a member and who's not, and what's every individual board's qualifications for participating. And if you have to go to multiple sources, it gets to be painful.
Yeah. Kelly, I guess we can let it just stand as written, and if we start to have an issue with a member, it references this, and then the staff and the BOCC can work together to address it based on the ordinance itself, I guess.
I just sent it to you, Rich, and I sent the link to John, and I realized it may have been amended since the version I pulled up. I think there are certainly some amendments to it, but more recent than the ones listed. So it could have been updated since, but that's what I was looking at this morning.
And I do just want to flag in our prior conversation about the application, which was part of this packet too, we had said that, people with a business interest at the airport wouldn't necessarily be precluded from serving. We just want them to say what their interest is, right? Because those folks actually do come with quite a bit of expertise to advise us. So I want to, between now and our reading on this, formal adoption on this, we may want to make sure there's not a conflict there.
Right. Yep. We have to disclose it if there's a conflict, representing something or someone or an interest outside the public interest for Pitkin County.
Yeah.
And I think that's articulated in that, which I just sent you, but worth looking at and attaching if it makes sense.
Okay.
I do know during the visioning process, John Ely was called upon to kind of make a couple of calls on this, and I think it really boiled down to if somebody had a financial interest, financial gain, they could not be a part of it. But understanding there are probably some conflicts. But if they were not personally, financially, directly being benefited by what was going on, I believe you gave them a pass because we had a lot of people on those committees that really had good airport information that really weren't conflicted financially.
I think the thing that Greg just passed out to everybody is the is the county's statement on conflict of interest and standard of conduct. I didn't get a chance to open it to make sure that's what it was, but that is spelled out in there. It's not limited just to financial interest, but it articulates the different bases for a conflict of interest. And to Kelly's point, it's a lot easier. I mean, I'm agreeing with Kelly in that it's a lot easier to counsel somebody on a conflict of interest that may exist rather than excluding someone from participation because of, say, a business interest at the airport. I mean, if you break it down like that, anybody who's a member of the chamber would have a business interest in the airport, not directly, but certainly will benefit from decisions being made at the airport.
Okay, so Johnny Lee, in your opinion, do you think that there's not a conflict then between what we're asking in the application and what this ordinance we're referring to has?
Yes, I think it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay. It's good for me.
And so I heard we probably don't want to attach it, right?
The bylaws, or this statement, this iteration already refers to the BOCC's standard of conduct, and I think that reference is fine because it's the same for every board. It's not something unique to this board.
Right.
And typically a staff liaison or whoever the staff contact is for the citizen board will put together a little packet, and that standard of conduct will be in that packet for the board members so that they're familiar with, county's internal processes and so forth.
And if say somebody does have a conflict of interest, it gives them tells them what they need to do to disclose it, in a timely manner, or, if something comes up, if they're already on the board, that doesn't mean they don't disclose something that comes up, right? They're just,
Right.
That's however that's articulated.
Right.
Okay, just wanted to call attention to that one. And then the only other thing I had from my notes was, are we going to have them add a resume or a CV to the application?
Kelly and I worked on the application. When we get through this, I'll pull it up and we'll see. If not, I think they need one. We can just put resume attached.
Okay.
On the your yellow highlighted part there, Rich, I was wondering if we should say at the first regular meeting of each year, because they probably should be re-elected each year by the board. Or it could say at the first regular meeting and annually thereafter, or something like that.
Yeah, I think we were leaving this open, at least this part open here, based on the group deciding what day works best for them to meet. So it was kind of leaving that open-ended to pick a day. So it'd be their first regular meeting in whatever, on a Thursday of a certain date. But I can clean this up, Steve. I get where you're at, saying on an annual basis.
Well, and we don't want to run into the situation we have with Board of Health, right, where we're appointing officers and they're running into reappointment conflicts.
Good point. Yeah, you are right.
I think Steve's language is good because their first regular meeting, that's what they'll do, and then in the same month annually thereafter, it shouldn't run into that conflict.
Back in the day when we had off seasons, I'm not sure we really do anymore. I guess we do. We would try to have something important like this would happen, certainly not during the off season, because people would be out of town, right? So just to make sure, it'd be great to be able to say, it'll happen when most of the people are here.
So if we just happen to say there is July kicks this thing off, whenever you guys make your formal appointment. Now reading this, it actually isn't on a day, it's that month. So whenever you guys make your final appointment, does this read how you would like that phrase now?
I think so. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Steve, you okay with that?
All right.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, then I'm going to pop that out. I just wanted to put it in so we could read through it and see if it worked. Okay, so, all right. Vacancies, I think those were pretty standard. In fact, a lot of this came directly out of your out of past or other boards that were established by you all. We good on those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to highlight this because this was definitely pulled from something else, so that may not be the date.
Right. I was thinking third Thursdays seem to be, I think that's RAFTA, I think, has its meetings on third Thursdays.
Yeah, it may have been where I pulled some of this from, Greg.
Maybe that was RAFTA, yeah. I
Okay.
say, so, don't do the third Thursday.
Well, just from looking at my calendar, I think Monday is the least busy day. If you want a day where other boards don't meet, I think it's Monday.
You might want to leave that unspecified so that
Right.
the people that are in the board can actually
Yeah.
decide which is the best day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what kind of the thought was. This was one change as meetings shall be held no less than once a quarter.
Yeah.
I believe that was a recommendation Patty had suggested when we were walking through this first. Special meetings, just given notice. These are noticed meetings, so they'll need to follow that law. Order of business, pretty typical.
Is this how our other boards do their order of business? It just always seems to me like public comment should be, you know, after roll call or something. But
Yeah, in fact, I don't know why I've got commissioner in here. It should be board. Do you do that after you take citizen comments, don't you?
yes.
Okay.
And I had noticed the PNC does it the way this is lined out, with the public comment is a little bit later in the agenda than we do at our board meetings. Maybe we're the odd one out on our meetings.
Kind of like having public comment first.
Yeah.
Well, it's easier to have the expectation for the public, right? That if they're on time, they're going to go pretty quick.
Right.
Can I go back to how often it's going to meet?
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that if this is going to be the guiding committee for getting things going at the airport, that perhaps maybe during the first year they should be twice a month or something. I mean, once a month is really far between, and you have to spend a lot of time reminding yourselves what you did the last month. And it seems like this is a really important board right now as we start to move forward, and that they should get things done.
Yeah, I don't think this precludes that. I think what it does is protects for a decade down the road, if they have less to meet about, that they don't stop meeting altogether. Greg?
So why don't we say it should be held on, I was going to say just have a dash day in there so we know it's a Thursday or Wednesday or whatever. So when I was doing that, I wonder, what am I supposed to fill in the yellow blanks to help myself? But then maybe at the last sentence in that would just say meetings could be held more frequently or twice a month, but held no less than once a quarter. That way they're flexible. If they need to call, like with the Board of Health, often we were meeting weekly there for a while. with the ambition of the public health department to get us to quarterly or monthly, and we had to be flexible because it changed a lot. So I can imagine this happening as well. So meetings could be held bi-monthly, or whatever, or is it bi-weekly? But no less than once a quarter.
I mean, it says, though, that provided that the board may from time to time resolve to hold additional regular meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, again,
yeah.
I think
Yes, it's okay.
I think it leaves it open for that discussion for that board. And Francie, to your point, I think when things start heating up, they're definitely going to have meetings. I mean, and just commit to it. But I don't think you can specify it on the front end until they've had a chance to meet and kind of take a look at the commitment that's going to be involved.
Okay.
And I think that comes in our interviewing process too. You know, hey, do you have
Good point.
capacity to meet two or more times a month at the start of all this?
I'm wondering if we shouldn't move the reading and approval of minutes up ahead of public comments, if that would be the first action that the board would take. To do the roll call.
In that case, do you need additions to the agenda or approval of the agenda? They do it the same way we do it.
Yeah, you know what I can do? Let me get with Charlotte and just fashion it around yours. That seems to work really well. Yours flows very good, gives the opportunity for public comment. You all get a comment. So let me just pull up one of those old agendas and I'll just insert that in if that'll work. Okay.
All right, we got about 3 minutes left on this.
Okay. I believe the rest of these, Kelly, are just kind of strictly just typical verbiages in our boards.
I noticed one thing, Rich, on the quorum. Usually, that under state law, you have a meeting if you have three people, three members of a board or more together. And by the quorum being a majority, I'll bet you anything that becomes confusing as to whether or not, you know, people are gathered together inadvertently or just or purposely and want to talk about business and you know, they're running afoul of the state open meetings requirement.
So it would be, in this case, it would be 4 or more. If we have a 7-member board,
If it's a local public body, which what this is, it's 3 or more, regardless
3 or
of
more.
the total number of members.
Okay.
Do we want to define a different quorum for voting purposes? John, is that standard?
You can do that. It's not standard, but you can do that.
Because then we could say, you know, 3 people conducting business or having a conversation is a meeting. But to take a vote, you need to have a majority of the board.
Let's see. Let me.
I would say 3 members is a quorum, but a majority is required to vote.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
But why would you meet if you're not going to vote? it would just be frustrating. You'd sort of, remember that, who was at that meeting with, the elected officials, transportation, is that what it's called? EOTC or something? And there was a lot of discussion about what constitutes a quorum and whether or not you can even start a meeting, and it was just, so I'm just thinking, so you have these people here and they have a 2-hour meeting and then they get to vote on something and they can't vote because they don't have everybody there. It's like that might be frustrating.
Yeah, we might need to talk about this more because I wonder more if you are going to start to get subgroups of people who are, deliberating business outside of the course of a meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe you just have to have a majority to even have the meeting, period. I think that's what the EOTC decided, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I would agree. I think we're making it too complicated. A quorum would be four people. You need a quorum to hold a meeting or to vote on anything. If only 3 people are meeting informally, it's not a quorum. It can't be considered a meeting.
Except John Ely is saying in state law and open records law or open meetings law, it is a quorum.
Does it define it as a quorum or as an official meeting?
It defines it as a meeting, and what we're doing is distinguishing between a meeting and a quorum, and my point was just, I bet that becomes confusing.
Yeah, I think we need to, maybe Rich and John could tweak the language of this and make it read right.
Yeah, we'll work on that. John and I can sit down and kind of go through that part of it and see. Because I get where you're at, so if you have, okay, well, we can work on it. I'll just star this one so I know. Okay. Meeting notice and materials, that's pretty straightforward. Agendas.
Hey, Rich, put a little star on number 6. We can talk about that too.
Okay. Okay. All meetings are open to the public. This is where, again, it goes back and references that section, Greg, that you talked about with the standard of conduct. So that's the end of the document there. And then I don't know, do you want me to pull up the other one real quick, Kelly, or are we pretty good on the application? I think the only ad that you had on that was that financial or conflict of interest or involvement.
Let's just pull it up. We'll make up time in our agenda here, so let's just take a quick look at this.
Okay, let me save this for sure.
Nice job on that, Rich.
Well
Thank
done.
you. That way, stop sharing now and then go back and see if I can find this again, okay? Let me do this, open this up here.
While he's opening that, John Ely did, regarding the standards of conduct, we understand that people would possibly have a business or a job in aviation, which could present a conflict, but if they disclose it, we're certainly not going to prevent them from being on the board. So how do we articulate that just regarding disclosure rather than we can't have a rule against having a conflict, but we have a rule for disclosure. And does that need to be articulated? Would it help people to have that attached to this?
You mean during the interview process, or do you mean during the participation?
Participation and possibly in the application also, so they know what they're getting into.
Well, the application, I think you can have, you know, just even a more broadly stated inquiry as to what your interests are at the airport, or why you're asking to be a member of this group, will elicit some kind of a response that will give you, you know, an idea of who you're talking to. If it's somebody who is, you know, a leaseholder at the airport, or somebody who just travels a lot, or what, you know, what the person might be. I think you're right. You know, if somebody has the potential for a conflict, you don't necessarily have to exclude them from being a member, but you can make an assessment if the person has multiple opportunities for conflict to arise, and therefore his participation might be reduced. Then you can take that into account, and maybe that would influence your decision whether or not to appoint.
Right. I was just trying to think of what's the cleanest way to encourage them to disclose that in the application.
Well, you know, the standards of conduct do point people in that direction, and if there's confusion, it directs them to talk to the county attorney's office, and I think that's all you can really do. You know.
Okay, so this
So the
is
application, then
yeah.
we just need to make sure that we do attach that conflict whenever that goes out. So a resume and a request for a resume, and then attaching this conflict to it whenever they pull it up to apply.
Right, and then maybe an invitation that if they have a question regarding disclosure or conflicts, they could always talk to our county attorney.
Okay.
Do we have to know whether or not they're registered voters?
I think this was just pulled off your current applications that you use now. So I'm not sure why that's on there, other than I just pulled it directly off of current application. So.
Well, I'm just asking because I actually had a rare moment of agreeing with John Martin at a CCI meeting on Friday, because there's a way now that you can agree to pay in when you get your driver's license to the state park system, but it asks for your social security name and some other things. And John was like, why are we asking for that? This is just, you know. So, and I actually agreed with him. So I'm wondering here, well, is this, what are we going to do with that piece of information?
We can certainly pull it out if the board desires to just pull that out. It could raise questions.
I don't think we need to know that information. It's immaterial whether they would be a good representative on the.
I mean, sometimes it helps if we have district appointments, right? To be able to look up and confirm their district residency. But that's not relevant for this application. Right? I mean, open space and trails, you live in District 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So I don't think it's relevant for this application, but it's helpful for others.
Does open space and trails have a representative from each district?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So we can scratch that line.
We're going to remove it? We're good?
I think so.
Yeah, remove it.
Okay.
All right, are we good here? I'd like to move on. Steve?
The only other thing I would change is on the phone numbers. You have home phone number, business phone number. People deal with home phones and cell phones or mobile phones. I think we should have maybe a line for mobile phone.
Okay. All right, I can do that.
And it might be their business number. It might be just one they carry around with them, like it's sort of like a home phone they carry around in their pocket. I think that would be less confusing to people. Are they going to be filling these out digitally, or are they going to print it out? If it's printing it out, there's not nearly enough room to answer some of the questions on the line if they have a lengthy answer.
Yeah.
I would expect it to be digital.
I think that's how they currently are for your citizens committees and boards. I believe Charlotte runs that digitally.
So if it's a narrow line and they have a long answer, it just keeps adding more lines onto it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make sure there's enough room to be able to address it. So, and to Kelly's point, I think this is the one that Kelly added, based on our conversation, is this one here. Do you have any fiduciary connection to Pickens County or the Aspen-Pickens County Airport? Other than that, I think that it kind of stood as is.
Would anybody who buys a plane ticket there have a fiduciary connection, or is that too? Is that the right term? Fiduciary relationship, fiduciary connection. I'm just trying to figure out what that means. If you're buying a plane ticket.
Do you mean to use the word financial?
Oh, probably.
Do you want to do financial?
Fiduciary means a position of trust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Huh, really?
Would it be dealings or instead of connection?
Let's say financial or business.
Well, how about
connection.
business connection?
Or you could say interest within Pickens County or not Pickens County, but the airport.
Interest, yeah.
Yeah, everybody's got a financial.
Yeah, I was going to say that won't work there. How about this?
I like business connections.
Okay, can we wordsmith this between now and?
Yeah.
We could say at the airport, not in the airport, because a businessman in town has a business interest in the airport, just because he relies on the tourists who come. So the word in or at would be one thing to play around with.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't want to belabor the point, Kelly, but do we want to ask them to disclose any potential conflicts of interest or that might come up? Is that something we need to ask for, or is that too much? John, I guess that's a question for John. That's kind of what we're asking them here. Should we just come flat out and say it?
Yeah, exactly.
Could you outline any potential conflicts of interest you may have? Is that?
That's fine.
Okay, it goes right in there. Perfect. Need a T instead of a C, but you're good.
Oh, yeah.
You knew that.
There you go.
And is the hobbies question just for a little warm fuzzy, or?
Well, if they're into drones or jetpacks, we have to look at them with suspicious eyes.
I mean, I do like reading about them on the citizen boards. It kind of like, it gives you something to say to them when they come for their interview, but this is a little bit beyond that, I'd say.
Okay. And again, Francie, I think this is just pulled off of some of your old ones there, but I'd be happy to give more space.
I think it is appropriate.
I want to keep it. I prefer to see a well-rounded position of folks who are applying, a well-rounded view.
All these skeet shooting with drones.
Okay. All right, guys. We have made our applicant wait, and we're past her appointment time. So I do want to, move us along.
Thank you all.
Okay. We will get another stab at this.
Yeah, I guess direction, Kelly. Are you good with me just coming back now to a regular meeting with a resolution or ordinance, however you adopt these, and move it forward that way, or do you want one more work session?
I'm okay, and we'll just give it sufficient time. Anything.
Agreed.
Okay.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.
Board. You betcha.
We've spent a lot of time on
We're
this.
getting
We'll
there.
get it right. Okay.
We need to. It's very important. Thank you.
Okay, and we're running behind, so we have a citizen board interview with Andrea Garr for the Citizen Grant Review Committee. Andrea, I see you there with us. You've been here a while, and I apologize that we're tardy. I'm not sure if she... Hi. Andrea, you're on mute. Hi. I apologize that we've run behind. Do you still have sufficient time to conduct the interview today?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I just have to do a disclosure here because my laptop, I'm not getting any sounds from your end. So I've got it on my cell phone, which I apologize for. I didn't want to mess with it since it was working on my cell phone.
Well, we can
So,
see and
is
hear
this
you.
okay?
Yeah, we can see and hear you
Okay.
just fine. Again, my apologies that we're running behind, and thank you for applying and for joining us today. I will ask our staff, Charlotte Anderson, just to give the BOCC an overview on this board, the status of this board's vacancies. And then what we'll do, Andrea, is invite you to talk about your interests and any credentials you'd like to tell the board about, and then we'll go around and ask you questions about the board. So I'm going to turn it over to Charlotte Anderson. Charlotte is here in the room with me, which is lovely, to just give us an update on the board. And do you want to turn her camera on? Charlotte's camera on, please, so everyone can see her. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Charlotte.
Andrea and the board. It is different than in the room, but nice to be here. So Andrea is applying for a position on the Citizen Grant Review Committee, and we have one person renewing her term on that board. That's Barbara Reed. And then there is another vacancy on that board, and that's what Andrea is applying for today. So I will let you guys go ahead and do your interview.
All right, Andrea, tell us a bit about yourself and why you're interested in this board.
Well, I moved to Redstone about 4 years ago with my husband, and I've always been a community activist that's been in big city politics. We lived in downtown Boston for 45 years. We both grew up there, but my elder daughter moved out here from college in 2004 and works for SKICO and has my adorable 3-year-old granddaughter since we've moved here. And so I've always been involved in politics, but in an activism, community activism, and I've been taking the last 3 or 4 years to try to figure out your county politics, which is a little different from what I had been involved with in the past. I've served on many boards. I've actually acted in every capacity, from executive director of a board. I've served on many boards. I've raised money. I've asked for money. I've given money. So I have a wide background and lots of experiences with being on a board. And like I said, so I offer a perspective that you may not have, in maybe a little bit of geographic diversity, in that I live in Redstone, and which is unique, obviously, for lots of reasons. And I'm sure you might think I'm a troublemaker after all the recent communications I've been delivering to all of you, but there are things that are happening here. And anyways, I represent a little bit of maybe geographic diversity in that I'm from Redstone, and we own a business. We bought a lodge out here in the wilderness, Redstone Cliff Lodge. So we're operating 5 to 6 months a year. We're closed for the winter. And I just wanted to get involved. I think it's important. I care about people. I have worked with all kinds of people. I recognize the needs of different kinds of people. And I think I'd be a good addition to the board. So that's my spiel. And I'm well-rounded. I have lots of hobbies. I heard from you previously. And interests as well. So that's any questions, I'm happy to answer. And thank you for accommodating me today, because I realize I'm out of the usual schedule. But
No, thank you for applying, and thank you for your flexibility. And I'll open it up to the board for questions. Greg?
Yeah, Andrea, thank you for applying. It's great, and it's great to have somebody weighing in from far afield like Redstone. That's wonderful. The questions I had, one are how familiar are you with the Healthy Community Fund and what we've done with the Healthy Community Fund? Because that would really be your purview as a member of this board.
Absolutely. Well, I have reviewed all of the documents, got them pages and pages. I'm familiar with the mission. I'm familiar with the goals. I'm familiar with all of the different organizations who have been granted funds. And I have a few questions, but about some of it that I've seen. But yeah, I've read through everything. I've read through the law that enacted the property tax. And I have a legal background, so I'm used to reading documents, and I actually like to read documents. And I would say I'm pretty knowledgeable about what goes on with this fund. I mean, like I said, I have some questions about some substantive and practical parts of it, but I kind of get it. But I have one question. How long is the term for the appointment to this?
Well, Charlotte would know that. I did want to say we do have youth members on this board also. We have high school kids who come on, and so how do you feel working, really almost becomes, maybe it's a mentorship relationship at some point as they're getting experience.
Right. I am a very experienced mentor. In fact, I started a mentoring organization in Boston, in one of the Boston public schools where, anyway, first generation families, college-bound students that we identified in elementary school. So I actually mentored, up until the time I came here, they graduated from college. I mentored them from grade 3 all the way through college. So I'm used to working with high school kids, and we actually had activities and monthly events with this group of kids. So that's something I'm absolutely familiar with and feel comfortable with.
Great, thank you.
And I want to say one other thing. I think this model of citizen participantship and youth participantship and community and civic affairs is really pretty incredible. I was trying to think of the city of Boston. Like, if you ever applied for a grant, I mean, they don't do that. They give a few occasional art grants, but they don't have anything like this. I think it's pretty impressive. So. Anyway.
Charlotte, did you know the answer to the question for the length of the appointment?
I believe that appointment term is 4 years, but I will double check that, Andrea, and I will get back with you.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't see it anywhere in all the materials I went through. I didn't see anything about the term, so yeah, that would be great. Not that I'm planning to go anywhere, but
Other questions for Andrea from board members? Steve?
Well, it's maybe more of a comment than a question, but you could respond to it too. I think that your membership on various boards in various capacities would actually be a real benefit to being on this board, because there are dozens of nonprofit organizations who apply for the grants. Some of them are not well run, and they actually need some guidance from this committee to kind of get their organization better organized, better run, more accountable with their finances and all those sorts of things. Just good skills for running a good nonprofit organization is part of what the Healthy Community Fund Board actually works on to some extent. And you have to be able to analyze if a new nonprofit is applying for money, to analyze how are they in terms of how well run the organization is. Are they financially responsible? And I have a feeling that you would have a good eye for that based on experience on a variety of boards.
Mm. Yeah, well, it's interesting you should mention that, because, I think sometimes about some of these newer organizations, they may be at a, disadvantage if they don't have experience applying for grants or something like that, and how much of that you would take into consideration. They may not be as well organized and as far along, but they do have a need. So, that's definitely something I would be interested in helping with. I didn't get from these materials that was part of what went on, but definitely something I'd be more than happy to do, to help people get the money they need. It could be a very worthy organization that just doesn't do a good application or doesn't have, you know, the record keeping in place or something. So, yeah.
So some of that is the staff people working with those organizations, but our advisory board can certainly, if there's an application that is deficient, you can call that out and, you know, send it back to the organization and try to, you know, have them flesh it out better, and just so they better understand the whole application process for the grants.
Thanks, Steve. Francie.
Thank you for being willing to serve, Andrea. I appreciate it. And I thought I'd give you an opportunity to ask some of the questions that you have, other than the length of the term.
Me? My questions? Yeah, okay. So one of the things is regarding the leftover funds. There seems to be a fairly significant leftover fund amount. And I saw somewhere that one of the reasons that you were keeping us, or whoever keeps the money, was keeping the money was to fund startups or something like that. So is there some other time you award grants other than through the application process, on the date of the application process? And is there any other reason you're keeping all of this money sitting in a fund, a leftover fund? That's one question.
Sure.
I'll go through my question. And you mentioned one of the goal areas is cultural funds, cultural treasures. I really don't know what that is, and I didn't see any organizations that I thought were cultural treasures. I thought that was an interesting category, but I'm kind of curious what that includes. And one of the things I noticed was that you don't fund, and you say generally you don't. This committee does not, or the county doesn't fund arts organizations, and you have a blanket statement in there in a few places that this fund is not meant for arts organizations, which, you know, is a little fuzzy to me. But and the other thing was just as far as the goals and whether they change annually, because I saw in the yearly report from 2021, the Healthy Community Fund Citizen Grant Review recommendations, 21 recommendations. So do the goals change somehow from year to year, or do they pretty much stay the same? So I saw that committee members can review the goals and the charter for the committee. So those are my bigger questions, I guess.
So some of those I think I could probably answer partially, but I'm not sure if Phyllis could fill in others. We don't have our Human Services Director or County Manager here currently. I will say that some of the Healthy Community Fund money is held in fund balance, so it's like a savings, and then some of it, a pretty decent portion of it, actually funds some of our Health and Human Services programs that are run out of our Human Services Department, and our Public Health Department is where portions of that fund go as well. And with regards to the goals, you know, the ballot language really defines how the fund gets spent. And they are working on, I think, improving over time, asking grant applicants to better demonstrate kind of outcomes of their grant work to the Healthy Community Fund. So that might help partially, but I know that leaves some gaps. And Phyllis, I'll invite you to provide other answers. Phyllis is the Assistant County Manager.
Hi, Andrea. No, Kelly, I think you covered it pretty well between senior services, human services that are funded through the Healthy Community Fund. There is the outcomes that are evaluated when there's renewals that come to the Healthy Community Fund to make sure that organization are meeting the goals and objectives that they set out when they were awarded some of the grants. So that's just a little bit more on it.
Okay, other questions for Andrea? Okay, Andrea, I'll just ask,
Steve has one.
if you think you'll have time, given that when your lodge is open and kind of the intensity of the grant review period might overlap.
Well, the review period is usually from September to December. Is that correct? Something like that?
August.
I don't know. When is the review period? I don't know. I don't remember. I think it was September.
August through December.
Well, let's put it this way. What?
August through December is usually the busiest time.
Yeah, well, we close on the end of October anyway, but let's put it this way. My husband plays lots of golf.
Okay. Okay, I can relate to that.
Yeah, and tennis.
Yeah.
Anyway, and this is kind of my, I'm more passionate about community activism than golf. I mean, I have my own activities, but yeah, I definitely would have time.
Okay, great.
So.
And Steve, you had another question?
I have a question.
It was really the same question
Okay.
was my concern.
Okay.
Because it is very seasonal. The grant applications are looked at in a short, intense period of time. You spend a lot of time, and then it's all over for the year by and large.
Yeah. Well, I see it's more like the decisions are made in November or December. Let me see. November or December, which is, we're closed anyway. So November, end of October, November, December. But we try to make this as low maintenance our business as possible. So, we have time. We're not just sitting here, all day. Okay. I get that too.
Just tell your husband.
What?
Tell your husband to skip the golf game when you have to go to the grant review committee.
Priorities, right? Anyway, I have a question. I noticed there was a staff person liaison, Lisa Yorker.
Mm-hmm.
Is that someone who's like dedicated to this committee, or what is her position?
Yes.
Yes, I don't want to speak fully. Maybe Phyllis or Charlotte, I don't know if she has other responsibilities.
I believe she does have other responsibilities, but she is the board liaison, and I can certainly put her in touch with you if you have other questions.
No, I was just wondering because, I wasn't sure who the committee communicates with. It's not with the commissioners directly. There's someone between the commissioners and the committee, it looks like.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, are there other questions for Andrea? No, Andrea, we'll have to compare political stories. I could cut my teeth in New Jersey politics, which I assume is more similar to Massachusetts than Colorado.
Well, it's unique. New Jersey is unique unto itself. I have a cousin who's in the assembly, who's the whip in the assembly there.
Oh, wow.
I hear stories from. Yeah, Boston's pretty interesting, but New Jersey is really something.
Okay, well, thank you. And we are going to discuss our board appointments as actually our next item. And so Charlotte will remain in contact with you about our decisions and the timeline for appointments.
When do you think you're going to be making a decision on this?
Well, we're going to give direction here in the next half hour about multiple board appointments. And then we will adopt it formally by resolution, I think, next Wednesday.
May 12th, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So quickly.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you so
Okay, well,
much.
I won't
Nice
commit
to meet you.
I won't commit to anything else in the meantime. So thank you for meeting with me, and I look forward to working with you all.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Okay. Bye.
Take care. Okay. And I don't know, it looks like she has multiple sign-ons. I don't know if you can clean all that up. All right, we're running behind, folks, and this is going to be a big discussion, and I'll tell the board I have a 4:30 hard stop for a meeting with a legislator on some housing issues. So I'm hoping to have us adjourn on time. So with that, let's move on to discuss the citizen board renewals. This is our global discussion on all the boards and all the applicants we have seen in the last few months, and Charlotte is going to present the topic for us.
Okay, so we have interviewed all of the applicants that we started taking applications for in February. So we finally made it through, and I have a list of applicants the renewing applicants that will be hopefully quick decisions. We can go through those, and I believe Board of Health and P&Z might take some extra discussion. So I'll be glad to start with renewing if you like, and we can just go down the list and you can tell me yes or no, or.
That sounds good.
Okay, so the first one is Animal Shelter. We have Bobby Taliska, who is the joint alternate. And she's renewing.
Any questions about that?
I'm just trying to get myself oriented
sure.
in the stuff that you posted, and so I'm scrolling down through, Charlotte, and
The table will start with
I
renewals for.
don't see that board that you're talking about.
Attachment 3, go to attachment 3, page 69.
Page 69. Oh, right. Okay. Page 69. Almost there. Page 69. I'm there. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, so everyone's in agreement with Bobby?
And I just want to be clear when we're looking at the number of vacancies, this is in addition to the column where the member description is. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? So we're looking at the
No.
person, so in the member column, you have the name of the appointee and in parentheses, the role that they will serve. And then in the next column where it says number of vacancies, those are the outstanding vacancies that will continue for the board, for that board.
No, there's not another column here.
On
But that's
attachment
okay.
3?
Let's just
Yeah.
move on.
Okay.
Fine, let's just go.
Okay, any questions about the animal shelter renewal? No? Okay.
All right. So the next one is Board of Adjustment. That's Charlie Podolak. He's renewing as well.
And Charlie doesn't want to be a regular member?
I think I could ask that board if they want to promote him to a regular.
Steve?
And just to note that Justin Nyberg did a joint application for the Board of Adjustment as well as the P&Z board, with his preference being P&Z board, but
Yes.
we could possibly appoint him to this also.
Could somebody give me a really few word description of what the Board of Adjustment is, please?
Oh, boy. They make decisions for people who are having issues with property purchases, I believe, or land issues. I don't have my.
So with variances, they look at if someone's applying for a variance, like a setback from property line or a road or a stream or something, I think, wouldn't the Board of Adjustment look at those?
That sounds right, Steve.
Okay. So are they like an adjunct to the community development sort of, or?
Suzanne, not Suzanne, Joanna Schaffner is in community development, and she is the liaison to this board.
Okay, great, thank you, I know Joanna.
So yes, Steve, Justin did, and I did not list him there, so, if you guys decide to.
This wasn't a renewal, is a new application. This is a list of renewals. here.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
So I will flag that based on our conversation about P and Z, whether we will come back and appoint him to Board of Adjustment or not. Is everyone
We can
okay
give a
with
thumbs
Charlie?
up. So we should do thumbs up for both of them now, just so if Jason does come back, we've already given the thumbs up for that,
Well,
if that's possible.
I would save the discussion on Justin because we have to decide between two people for the one open position on the P and Z.
Right.
Because it's Suzanne Caskey or Justin Nyberg, we have to decide between.
Right.
Well, we have a broader conversation on P and Z, so I'll make sure we come back to, there's two questions here for the Board of Adjustment, whether Charlie would prefer to stay an alternate or to become the regular member, and whether or not Justin becomes the other appointment based on the, P and Z conversation. Okay. Do you wanna keep going? You wanna skip
Sure.
over Board of Health?
Yeah, we'll skip
You need
over Board
thumbs
of
up.
Health, so you guys can, discuss that separately. Citizen Grant Review Committee, Barbara Reed is a renewal. And then Andrea is the new one.
The number in parentheses, that's how many positions are available on the board?
Correct.
Like, it says citizen, okay, thank you.
So then Charlotte,
Definitely Barbara Reed. I would favor appointing Andrea Gar also, who we just interviewed.
yeah,
What do you mean also?
Well, this is the renewals here, but we could decide on Andrea at this point, then we wouldn't have to come back to it.
Oh, I
Yes.
see.
so if we were to appoint Andrea, that would leave one youth position.
Correct.
Is that good for everyone? You agree? I'm happy to appoint Andrea.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so next is the Election Commission, and Brooke Peterson is applying as a renewal. And we have no new ones.
That's fine. Is everyone okay with Brooke remaining on the board? Okay.
Financial Advisory Board is Jonathan Feldman. He's renewing. Yes.
Everyone okay with that? Francie, Steve? They currently serve, okay.
Okay. Picken County Library, John Kelleher resigned, and Elizabeth Nix is a current alternate, and I know you guys didn't or interview her, but Kathy has highly recommended her, and Elizabeth also said she is willing to fill that spot as a regular.
Did we
Okay.
interview her previously in previous years?
Yes.
I think we
Yes,
did.
just like a couple of
Right.
years ago.
Right, yeah. I'm happy to approve her.
And
Yeah,
so that
me
would
too.
leave one alternate seat.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, and then Open Space and Trails has one renewing member, and that's Wayne Ives in District 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we also interviewed Matthew
Schmigelski.
Schmigelski for District
Schmigelski.
5. So we have a decision point here. Stephen, then Greg.
I would favor reappointing Wayne Ives to this, and maybe we could find another spot on another board for Matthew, because he seemed to be, really have a lot to contribute also.
I agreed with Steve. I would have said the same exact thing. I'd love to see Matt get on this board or another board in the near future. He's been a great asset in the past. I think working with CORE or maybe CLEAR, he has a lot of important interests in the community, and I'd I'd love to, I don't want to discourage him, but I think I would probably reappoint Wayne. Wayne has done a great job, and it'd be good to keep him there for consistency.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I will note, Patty sent me notes on her input on these appointments. She did say that if this board were to have alternates, that he would be a good alternate appointment. This board does not currently have alternates in their bylaws. Greg?
I hope we can discuss that at some point. I was going to bring that up too, so thank you. I'd forgotten, but yes, I'd love to see alternates in there because it would help, groom them for getting on the board eventually.
Well, you might want to take that opportunity at your next joint meeting with Open Space and Trails, which is June 1st.
Okay, I've added it to our future agenda discussion. And I would love Matt to apply for P&Z, with his history of clean energy building, clean buildings, clean energy efficiency in buildings. I mentioned that, so I don't think he took me up on that when we interviewed him. Okay, moving on. Who's
Okay,
next?
so P&Z will
I-
pull
I
that.
Oh, sorry,
just wanted to
Francie.
make sure-
Sorry.
I just want to give my thumbs up for Wayne.
Yeah. Sorry, I did move too
Thrilled to
quickly.
have him.
Yeah, I support Wayne as well. He has such great, wildlife background that brings a lot to the board.
Okay, so next is P&Z. We'll let you guys discuss that later. So we'll go to Redstone Historic Preservation, which is Jason Janes, and he is renewing.
Yeah, I've known Jason for a long time. I think he's great. I totally support that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Telecommunications Advisory Board, Buck Field is applying for a renewal.
Any objections to that? Greg?
I don't know. I looked through some of Buck's info. I don't recall interviewing him. Did we interview him, and did I miss it, or did I just forget? And somebody remind me.
Well, that's a board that does not require renewal interviews.
Oh,
but he
no
has,
wonder.
Yeah, but he has been on the board for several years.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good with Buck.
Yes.
I'm good with that.
Okay, and then the last one for renewals is Weed Advisory Board, and that's Marie Kelly.
Wholeheartedly agree with Marie Kelly.
Marie is quite dedicated and very bright and super enthusiastic about plants and weeds and gardens, and it's always fun to talk to her. She's so enthusiastic about it.
Yes, she is.
And didn't we have another one applying? Didn't Rachel Betchhofer?
Rachel Beck.
Yes, she's a new one. Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would appoint Rachel. She was very, very knowledgeable about plants and landscaping and annuals, not annuals, but native plants versus introduced plants. She would be good, I think.
So she would be an alternate then? Is that how that would work?
That is correct.
Well, she would be a regular member. There is one person, Tatiana Stevens resigned from the Weed Advisory Board, so
Yeah.
there's at least one regular opening on there.
That is correct, Steve. Thank you.
Okay. So we've agreed to those. I think the only one outstanding is Senior Services Council before we talk about.
Yeah, those are all new.
Okay. So if we want to look at attachment 1, we'll make sure we cover any boards we've left out, and then we'll talk about P&Z and Board of Health. Right?
Okay.
How many page number?
I don't have
Page
54.
21.
Oh, I had 53 on mine.
We all look at it different.
Okay.
21.
Fancy finding her.
You're looking
place.
for senior services?
It says it's attachment 1,
Yeah.
Yes.
has seen three applicants for, new applicants for senior services.
Right. Seth Saxon, Nikita Daly, and Meredith Nelson Daniel.
I think they all seem wonderful, and I'd be happy to appoint all three.
I would agree.
Yeah,
Me too.
absolutely.
Okay. All right. I will let you guys discuss P&Z and Board of Health.
All right, which do we want to tackle first? Steve.
Well, I thought about this a lot and trying to, you know, there's people moving around. And so I came up with a plan, and let me present it. It only then leaves one decision for us. That would be because the town of Snowmass Village agreed to put Markey in as their alternate member. We could keep her on the board. She wouldn't be able to be president, you know, the chairman or anything, but she could still be on the Board of Health representing Snowmass Village, because Bill Madsen as mayor is moving into their voting spot. I would keep Dr. Siebold on as in her at-large position, and I would move Dr. Giesel from the alternate into the other at-large position. Markey would be an alternate for the town of Snowmass Village. Then that leaves the opening for an alternate seat, which we would have to decide between Claudia Kirby and Ben Markhoff for those, which I don't know how I would go yet on those, but that's how I would do the shuffling of those who are already serving.
Okay. I will offer, Patty has agreed that she recommends the reappointment of Dr. Siebold. She defers from you, Steve, in that she would appoint Markey to the at-large seat and would appoint Claudia Kirby as the alternate. And so I think that would remove Dr. Giesel from the board and would not appoint Ben, from what I understand from Patty's notes. So I'll offer that. I am curious, Greg, I'd like your input on the Board of Health, if you think it's a well-rounded board, or if you think, you know, that there are missing voices there that we should consider.
I think it's well-rounded in that it has to serve a really particular purpose, and that my bias would be as many medical professionals on it as we have, certainly, and today, and these are all medical people. I think it's just a matter of experience, and you know, Claudia came on as I really like her, and I want to get her on one of our boards. But I think she and Ben don't have the same in terms of experience or credentials as Dr. Giesel or Dr. Siebold. And so I think I would err on keeping the doctors, the medical people on there. Dr. Giesel has a mental health component in her work, and she works with the veterans, which I think is unique as a doctor. Dr. Siebold has more with pediatrics, but also a more varied experience as well as a doctor. And so my bias would be to keep the doctors in there. As much as I really appreciated these other two who are exuberant and energetic, but they don't quite have the, I'm going to say, the medical experience or the chops for decisions like this. But that's my, and I'm looking at Ben's resume, which I was really impressed by, and Claudia's as well. But I think that's where I would come down. But I think that we still have some variety on the board through the medical people we have, and I like the makeup as it is. I'm intrigued by Steve's comment, which I think is fascinating, and I would probably agree with him. The concern is I think we put the cart before the horse, and we had a motion to reappoint Markey as chair. It came up very quickly at a board meeting and was voted on before this reappointment event had a chance to happen. So what it would mean is the Board of Health would have to reappoint another chair. And that's completely doable. I think we were all prepared to do that, but it's I don't know, I guess it's unfortunate. It was like putting the cart before the horse. But hey, these things happen, right?
So I just want to ask a confirming question of Greg, and then I'll go to Francie and then Steve. So you would confirm that Markey would be the Snowmass Village alternate? I'm trying to figure out her role.
Right. That had not occurred to me before, but I think I would.
Okay, thank you. Francie and then Steve.
How long has Markey been on the board?
Since the founding of the Board of Health, which is only about 4 years now.
Mm-hmm. And, well, I just wanted to speak for the new applicants because I do think that having some youth on the board would not be a bad thing. I don't know who I would recommend not be on it, though. That's the problem.
Right.
But I did like their perspective. It was very different, but it's still pertinent, I think. I think it's relevant. The experience they would bring, and from a totally different segment of the population. Because if we stick with the people who are on it now, I think it's more of a, I don't really know these people very well, so I'm kind of generalizing in a way maybe I shouldn't, but it seems like it's a certain segment of our population that's represented, and there aren't representatives from youth, from, you know, from all over the valley, from different areas of medical work. And so I would just like us to look at them seriously. But like I say, I wouldn't know who I would recommend not repeating on the board, so that's the problem with it. Maybe Markey would take a term off and come back, or I don't know, just an idea. But I'm mostly deferring to you guys because I haven't worked with them as long as you have.
I would point out that I think Dr. Giesel is certainly younger than most of us, I think, and Dr. Siebold is she's not an elder by any stretch. These are parents of young children, or, you know, still super active, and I put them in youthful category. So to answer that, but yeah, we don't have an EMT on the board at this point. We probably have a former EMT in one of these medical pros. I found, you know, Claudia's fairly new still. She's still quite new, and it's great that she's enthusiastic. I kind of think just what we've been through with the pandemic and what we still have ahead of us, I'm just so grateful to have the real medical, you know, doctors on that board. I've got to say, I'd be uncomfortable on a board that didn't have a strong medical presence, and so that's where I am.
Steve.
So I was thinking if by letting Town of Snowmass Village appoint Markey as their alternate, then we don't have an unknown thing. If we appointed Markey, reappointed her to a regular position, then we're getting an unknown for the alternate from Snowmass Village. We don't, now conceivably they could appoint Dr. Giesel to that because she's a resident of Snowmass Village. But that's up to their board to decide who they appoint. And I'm just so impressed by all the people, the applicants we have, that I would like to get as many of them on the board as possible. And Snowmass Village offered us a way to do that by having Markey be their alternate, which then means she can't be the chairman anymore. But so I just toss that out there as an idea that Dr. Giesel could be their alternate, but we can't dictate to them that that has to be who they pick. They might pick somebody else.
Sure. Let's just narrow our conversation a little bit. I think I'm hearing agreement for reappointing Dr. Siebold. Is that correct? That's my preference. She has a wonderful demeanor to her. And I think I'm hearing that we don't see a seat for Ben on this board at this time. Is that a fair statement? Steve?
Well, I would see either, I mean, with my scenario, either Claudia or Ben would be the alternate.
Mm-hmm.
They both have really strong points to say they should be the one appointed. Claudia being that her bilingual connection and skills, I think would be valuable to have someone on the board be, you know, reaching out to the Latinx community.
Isn't she the one we got a recommendation for, a letter about? That was she, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a really nice letter.
Yeah. I know my preference, I think, would be to have a seat for Claudia over Ben. Patty's articulated the same. So again, I'm just trying to, like, if anyone else feels that way, let's just narrow our conversation now.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was torn between the two. They both have really good qualities, but I'm really attracted by her bilingual connection that I think would be so valuable for the board to have.
Okay.
Just to note, Ben does speak Spanish, by the way. So not to complicate things, I think I'm a little bit more impressed by his history as a medical person than I am of Claudia's. She's come up very quickly, and she's charismatic and she's enthusiastic, and those are all good points. But I'll go with it if we have 3 already or 4 who would like to see her on there, then I'm fine with it. I think it'd be great to have her.
Steve, could you run over it again then? So you're suggesting that Marky and Claudia would be alternates?
Well, Marky would be appointed by the town of Snowmass Village, not by us. But they have said, Clint said that was what they offered to us, that if we don't reappoint Marky, that they would appoint her as their alternate.
Okay.
Then that, in effect, gives us one more choice from our others. It gives us the opportunity to keep Dr. Giesel on there and to bring Claudia or Ben on as our alternate pick.
But who would be the third regular on the board then?
Well,
So
it
there's
would be Dr. Giesel.
There's only
Dr.
one
Sie-
regular seat. So if we reappoint Dr. Siebold, she keeps her seat. And then there's only one regular at-large seat for us to fill.
And
So
that would be
Dr.
Dr.
Giesel basically
Okay.
takes Marky's position.
Okay, I get it. Okay.
Yeah. Marky then just changes with Bill Madsen between their voting and their alternate member.
Mm-hmm. And, that's Steve's proposal. We could also put
That's
Claudia in the
that's
at-large
yeah.
seat. We could, put Marky in the at-large seat and appoint Dr. Giesel or Claudia as alternates. So I just want to check in where we're at. Greg.
I'll second Steve's proposal.
Okay. And so again, that would reappoints Dr. Siebel, appoints Dr. Giesel to the at-large seat, assumes we're appointing Marky to the alternate for Snowmass, and then appoints Claudia to the alternate to the board. I see
Okay.
2 nods.
I'm
Okay.
good with that.
Okay. I think I can be okay with that. This is a tough call. But
Happily, we've got great choices all the way around.
yeah.
Do you have alternative ideas, Kelly?
You know, I want to find a spot for Claudia because I think that her engagement with the Latino community really fills the gap. And I also think just her first responder experience is really valuable as well. With that, we also have a need for mental health representation on the board, which, you know, Dr. Giesel, for me, partially fills. I don't think she's sort of like the most direct mental health advocate. You know, we could keep that in mind for future appointments to that board. But those are two really important topical areas that I think need to be well represented. So, you know, so with that, we could shuffle these all around a little bit, but, you know, in the end, the composition will mostly be the same. So, Greg, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I like what I think you summed it up nicely. I'm ready to thumbs up for that proposal.
Okay. Want me to repeat it? Or you think
Yes,
you got it?
please.
Okay, so we are going to reappoint Dr. Siebold to her seat on the Board of Health.
Okay.
We are going to appoint Dr. Giesel to the at-large seat. We are going to appoint Claudia Kirby as the alternate to the board. And we are going to rely on the presentations of Snowmass Village that Marky Butler will get appointed as the alternate for the Snowmass Village seat on the board.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, planning and zoning. Remind us, Charlotte, how many appointments do we have to do with this one?
Okay, so we have one regular vacancy. Suzanne Caskey and Justin Nyberg have both applied for that position. And then the renewals of Joe Kraybacher, Monty Thompson, and James Viscenzi.
Let me just ask a clarifying question. Could we elect to not renew one of those three and appoint Justin or Suzanne?
Yes, you could.
If we elect to do that, okay. So we have five applicants for 3 seats. 4 seats.
4 seats,
Sorry,
yes.
5 applicants for 4 seats. Okay. Thank you for that. Looking for board input. Greg, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just, you know, I was really gratified when Suzanne Caskey applied to come on the board. I was kind of hoping she would, and she had suggested it, and I'm grateful that she applied. She has incredible experience in the community and has served on this board before, so I'm a pretty strong advocate for Suzanne. I have to say, I really was impressed with Justin as well. I'm a little concerned because he's really only been in town a couple of years, and I think it matters. But I know I actually did some checking up on him and checked some references, and you know, people are very super impressed by the guy. He's a solid guy with a strong interest. I think he's going to be around with us for a while. So, but I think if I had to choose between the two, I'd choose Suzanne first.
Okay. And does that mean, are we to assume that you would keep the other 3, or would you consider replacing one of the current 3 with Justin?
I would consider, I don't want to hinder any conversation about that. I think we
Okay.
should have that conversation.
Okay, thank you. Steve, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I would do the same. I mean, I would keep the 3 who are on there. There's one of them I maybe would not vote for, but it's more of a personal thing, not the job he has done on the P&Z. So I don't want to have a personal grudge against somebody come in between appointing a person who's done a good job on the board. So I would reappoint the three. I would appoint Suzanne as the new member. She did an awesome job. She also served as chair of the P&Z back in the day. The one little bit of a red flag that I have is that John Kelleher resigned from the library board. He sort of like he was incredulous that Suzanne had applied to be on the P&Z board, and maybe he was hoping that they both would be completely retired with not so many obligations. But that would be, I mean, Suzanne didn't come back she didn't withdraw her application for the P&Z board, so.
Steve,
do you have insight in that, Greg?
I don't have any insight, but I took that to mean that he was planning to make dinner for her when she's out late. You know, he's just freeing himself up so he can be her, keep her going.
And then, I mean, I really liked Justin, but he has only been here a couple of years. And so I guess sort of as the consolation prize for him, I would appoint him to the Board of Adjustment just to keep him on our roster of people on boards. And I would see him as a future P&Z board member, very, very likely. I will want to keep him in the wings for that.
Okay. Francie, do you have thoughts you want to share? Otherwise, I can go.
I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I really like Suzanne Caskey's, our interview with her. I was delighted to hear her participation in our prior growth management conversations that took place last summer and her interest in those topics. So I would like to appoint her. I really liked Justin Nyberg's experience and involvement in our open space master planning as related to his efforts on the I'm drawing a blank. The property over in the Crystal River. And I think that brings a really valuable nexus of experience for me. I also think his alignment on interest in climate action brings more balance to that board, which I think is very, heavily weighted by folks with development interests, and I don't think is truly reflective of our whole community. And so I'm hoping with these reappointments, maybe we can achieve a better balance, because I don't think it's there currently. So I would prefer to appoint Justin to P&Z and, replace either Monty or James Vichansi with him. I would like to keep Joe Craybacker. He's just so incredibly informed, and I've really appreciated, we've had some tough conversations, but he also has shown up with some really thoughtful ideas. And I think that he's very interested in brainstorming good solutions. And so I appreciate that about Joe. So those are the three that I would like to appoint, and then we can deliberate, Monty versus James, sort of skills and assets on that board. I will say I like Monty's kind of persona, but he's also very quiet in the era of where we have to have a lot of discussion. So on one hand, I do like his commitment to the middle road, and then on the other hand, I want to hear more from him, which doesn't always happen. So that's my feedback on the 5 applicants. Steve?
What did Patty say in terms of the P&Z?
She would reappoint the 3, and then also Suzanne. Francie?
I'm very in favor of Suzanne. I really enjoyed listening to her, and I thought her resume was really good. And I don't have enough experience with the 3 people who are on the board now, so if you guys would want to keep them, I'd go with that, but if you want to replace them with Suzanne or Justin, that'd be fine too, but I am in favor of Suzanne.
Okay. Greg?
Kelly, I really appreciate what you said. And I have to say that Justin is young and he's sharp and he's has more of a climate focus, I guess I would probably welcome him on. It does make me a little nervous, but I think he's here. He's here. He's engaged. He's engaged in the community.
In real estate.
And he's an attorney. He's an attorney in real estate, which is that's a double-edged sword. It's how you use it.
Yeah.
If he is as focused on climate action, I believe in natural resources, and I think he gets that, and he understands the importance of it. That's important to me also. So I would go with Kelly on that. I think I'd be inclined to keep Monty, and I honestly I appreciate everything they've all done. So it's a hard decision, but if you were to go that way, I probably would too.
Steve?
So there are still 3 votes for Suzanne, even if you switch Greg, because Kelly was in the minority, the 1 vote.
Yeah, I'm still on this. I'm in the Suzanne camp also.
Yeah.
So we could vote on Suzanne and get her out of the way, and then go.
No, I think that's.
Michelle.
Yeah, I think it's clear we want to appoint her to the vacancy. Now the question is, do we want to renew the 3 who are currently serving, or do we want to replace one of them with Justin?
Oh, I see what you're doing. Mm-hmm.
So I've indicated my preference. Patty would would renew the 3. I would replace probably James with Justin. But I would be open to discussion on that. I would like to keep Joe Krabacher.
I'll go along with Kelly on that.
And Steve or Francie?
When I voted to remove a person from the Healthy Rivers and Streams Board, I felt really bad, somebody who really was passionate about what they were doing, and, I didn't vote to renew them to it, and I'm reluctant to not reappoint someone who's been, very faithful serving. I almost feel like I'd have to watch the interviews again of James versus Justin, just to kind of compare them head to head before deciding that.
Sure.
I would entertain that, though, if we, maybe we could defer doing all the P&Z appointments yet.
Well, or we could direct Charlotte to prepare the resolution, and if we need to amend it when we discuss it next week, that would give you time to review those.
Yeah, I'll go back and, look at the interviews. I looked at a whole bunch of interviews yesterday, but I didn't look at Joe, Monty, or James's interviews.
Francie?
Just a couple of quick comments. I'm not sure that Justin being new to town is all bad. It might bring a totally fresh view of Aspen to us, and might bring in some ideas from other communities. So, because for people who've been in Aspen a long time, maybe we need some ideas from other communities. And I found Monty completely irresistible. So I would not vote to remove him.
Okay. I need a little more direction on what to tell Charlotte. Whether she prepares the resolution to appoint Suzanne and the 3 renewals, and then we revisit this conversation after folks have had time to revisit, or if she prepares the resolution to appoint, Suzanne and Justin and Joe and one other. Greg.
Can Francie clarify? It sounded like Francie was there, but I just want to make sure I understood. I heard what you said. You want to keep Monty. You like Suzanne.
But I was just saying that perhaps you guys had mentioned that he's new to town, that Justin hasn't been here very long, and I was just saying that that might be a good thing, but I wasn't actually voting for anyone.
Well,
Except for Monty. Except for Monty.
Well, we need you to, because
And
we're
Suzanne.
split.
I'm definitely in favor of Monty and Suzanne. And I sort of agree with Steve that when people have put in the time and the commitment and they're familiar with it, I wouldn't feel good asking them to resign.
You know, it's funny, if I could, Kelly, when I was first running for election, one of the issues that came up was, you know, we had some citizen volunteer board members who had been on for decades. And I thought, boy, maybe we do need some turnover. And I don't have it in front of me, but I think James has been on, he's been on for a dozen years already, which is a good long term, as long as any commissioner could ever serve, unless they go away and come back. So he's been on for a long time. So he's had a good run, if that's what you were concerned about. I'm taking your point well about Justin, because I've always generally thought I liked having people with more experience in the community. So you've got me thinking, and I appreciate your being provocative. And it sounds like you're ready to pull the trigger on that, on James. And if you are, then we could, for Justin, we could just do it.
I could consider that because I haven't been thrilled with the direction of the growth in Aspen over the last 12 years. I'd like to see more dramatic steps taken to curb the size of houses and the making things very possible for developers. So I would like to see some new blood, I think. So I could go with Suzanne, James, Joe, and Monty. Correct? Did I say
James
it right? Yeah.
That's what's a renewal. Are you sure? Did you say Justin? Did you say Justin?
I said Justin, Suzanne, Monty, and Joe.
Okay.
That's
which
what
is
I had
Kelly,
proposed, yeah.
and I was going with Kelly on that as well. So I think we have 3 who agree with that. And I know it's a tough decision. It's uncomfortable because we know all these people. But on the other hand, it's been a good long run.
Well, and I'm biased because I was on City P&Z about a year and a half after I moved here. And thought I served pretty well in that role, but others may disagree.
Well, we'll have to get elected as a commissioner.
Yeah. So, okay, so I think that's direction for Suzanne. We can revisit this. You have time to watch the interviews and change your mind when we look at the resolution next Wednesday. Okay.
And that's direction for Charlotte, I think is what you were saying.
Yeah. What did I
Okay.
say? Yeah.
Suzanne.
Oh, sorry, direction for Charlotte.
Are you clear, Charlotte?
So yes on Joe, yes on Monty. You'll replace James with Justin and appoint Suzanne.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how I understood the conversation.
That's how the resolution should be written anyway.
How you feeling about that, Steve?
Well, that would prolong my feeling bad for having replaced somebody who's been so faithful.
Yeah.
Which I will have that as long as I'm a commissioner now, I think. But I'm going to go back and look at all of the interviews. You know, maybe next Tuesday we want to spend a little bit of time in open discussion. If we want to make the change, it would be good to decide then, I think, rather than on Wednesday.
That's fine. You check back in on Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah, let's check back in on Tuesday. And I will look at all the interviews again for them.
Is that okay, Kelly?
Yeah, I'll
Madam
note
Chair?
it for open discussion next Tuesday.
Okay, and I just, I will hold off on sending out any letters of
Yeah, please.
confirmation on that board
Thank you.
until you make that decision.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, folks, thank you. We are supposed to have a break, but we're running behind. Can we just plow through? Is that okay?
Okay.
I'm going to move future agendas down because we have guests here to discuss the Buttermilk parking lot use. So we're going to skip over future agendas and go straight to that topic that was supposed to start 10 minutes ago. And I see Brian Pettit. Hello, sir.
Hello.
And do we
Hi,
have
Brian.
SKICO folks and ComDev folks? I see Cindy.
Right.
All right. And
Joey's
Haley.
here
Hi.
from SKICO as well.
Let's see. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So I guess, Brian, should I turn it, or Cindy, who's going to take this to introduce everybody?
I'll be glad to take it,
Okay.
Kelly. Thank
Go
you.
for it.
You kind of went through the introductions with Haleen Burklow from Community Development, Cindy Hubin with Community Development, and Joey from Aspen Skiing Company. I'm Brian Pettit. I'm the Public Works Director for Pitkin County. And if we could do something right now, waiting in the wings is Mitch Ozier, who's the Director of Parking, who's having trouble getting on.
Okay.
So is there something we can do there to allow Mitch
Yeah.
to participate?
Yeah. Could you move him over from being an attendee? Mitch O, please. Should David
turn
join
on
us
his meter,
too?
though.
You can move David Pesnichek over too. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for doing that. So this is really follow-up from the meeting the board had a couple weeks ago to talk about the request from the Aspen Skiing Company for a letter of authorization to use the Buttermilk parking lot the county owns for special events. It's been a little bit of a moving target since then, in that one of the requests was for the high school graduation on June 4th and 5th. That was since then moved to the high school. So that special event has changed. However, my understanding is the skiing company is still wanting to use part of the Buttermilk parking lot for special events that they can allude to once I'm done. But what I'd like to do is remind the board a little bit about the history of this parking lot. And the county acquired it from CDOT, who had condemned it back in the day when there was a widening of the highway. In 2017, the Board of County Commissioners wanted to more effectively use the parking lot at Buttermilk. And in doing that, the county signed an IGA with the City of Aspen and divided Buttermilk parking lot really into 4 areas. One was transit day use parking, the area closest to the highway. The other was 4-day paid parking at $6 a day. Both of those would be unaffected with this special event proposal. The other 2 part of the lot, one was for construction and commercial staging, which would allow contractors to park, say, a crane or a roll-off container while they shuttle in and out of town, and it would help them with their project and alleviate parking issues in the city of Aspen. And then also, as part of that lot that would be impacted by special events, would be day use parking for access to Sky Mountain Park. So that kind of rolled from 2017. 2018 was the first year we had moderate use of Buttermilk. In 2019, the lots were virtually full all summer long. Especially the construction and commercial staging, we had a lot of activity there, and it was a success. Then 2020 came and COVID hit, and things changed. High school graduation was moved to Buttermilk, and on the heels of high school graduation, the skiing company came forward and said, hey, we would like to do, outdoor movies, possibly concerts, plays at Buttermilk because the stage is set up already. Again, things were different. There was hardly any traffic on Highway 82. Construction was pretty much shut down at that time. And as staff, we handled that special event permit given the change in condition. And those special events went on. This year, the special event request has come to the county, and as staff, we discussed it, and 2021 is shaping up much differently than 2020. Our traffic volumes are back. We're looking at 43% increase in C&D being disposed at the landfill right now. Building permits are up 40% in the county. The city's seeing similar increases. They have, I think the number was 5 large commercial ventures there. 2 of the big commercial changes there was the Hotel Aspen and the Molly Gibson, which would be complete demolitions with a lot of dirt work associated with them. So 2021 is different. Mitch is here to discuss parking concerns in the city of Aspen. As he's said, based on the summary that you all have in front of you, he expects July through September to be virtually full from a parking standpoint between the hours of 11 and 3. So we see demand for parking being a competitor at Buttermilk as well. Lastly, the board did put in place in 2018 a residential construction parking program with the idea of charging for the use of roads in front of residents where contractors are parking, and to encourage carpooling, which hopefully would push some of that activity in those residential areas out to Buttermilk and then further out to Brush Creek Park and Ride. But with that, from a staff standpoint, and the question to the board is, what's the best use of Buttermilk in 2021? I think we've been pretty clear that there will be a lot of construction parking pressure and general parking pressure as well. So from a staff recommendation standpoint to the board, we think that's the highest and best use of Buttermilk in 2021. But I am really not clear on what the skiing company is proposing for a special event. But maybe we can talk more about that as we get into the discussion, Kelly.
Okay, thank you. And I would invite Cindy and your team to weigh in, or we can ask SkiCo to describe what they propose. Cindy, go ahead.
We don't have any additional comments at this time. We're just here to support from the special events perspective if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Joey, can you go ahead and...
Mitch, the director.
Oops, sorry, hi Mitch.
Good. Hi. So I'm Mitch Orso, the Director of Parking and Downtown Services for the City of Aspen. Again, as Brian described it pretty well, everything we believe points to a huge increase in construction. We are pushing back to people in town as far as the number of parking spaces they can get. So we'll be continuing sending those people to Buttermilk as it stands today. We're also having lots of calls for people doing the 4-pass loop, et cetera, that will be using that Buttermilk lot. So, our belief, as Brian and I have talked, is that, if we have the use of that lot, we will fill it pretty much every day in July, August, and September with everything that's planned in the city. So, that's just my point of view, and I'm here to answer any questions as the conversation moves on.
Great. Thanks for joining us today, Mitch. Nice to see you. And I'll invite SkiCo. Joey, will you take this on, or will Derek, to present what you are asking to do?
Yeah, I can take it over from here. First off, thanks for the information, Brian. That was good to know the background of the lot. But after careful consideration and a lot of discussion, we are going to withdraw our request for ongoing use of that lot. We may request a few one-off events here and there if something comes up, but for the ongoing program, we'll withdraw our permit.
Okay. Well, we hope you find other opportunities. The programming last summer was great, and I think there's still need for safe outdoor events. Steve, you have a question?
Well, I guess it's a question and a suggestion. I mean, I had come to the conclusion that we really needed, parking is so important that close to Aspen, that we really need the parking area to alleviate the congestion in the city of Aspen. I don't know what the Two Creeks parking lot is used for in the summer typically, but the suggestion of that being used for special events really, it kind of intrigued me, and I was wondering if the ski company would be able to use the Two Creeks parking lot for setting up a stage and maybe a movie screen and doing, maybe people don't have to be in their cars. Maybe they could be out, a little bit closer, just sitting on lawn chairs or something, watching programs there. So I wanted to just get a take on that from the ski company representatives.
We've definitely talked about that as an option, but with Thursday night concerts and the rodeo already kind of happening in Snowmass, we just feel like it's off the beaten path and don't really think that we would get the participation that we were getting at Buttermilk, with it being right to the entrance into town and people could see it from the highway. You know, it was, we had good participation from there, but we just don't think that it's a very viable option at Two Creeks.
Other questions for staff or SKICO?
You know, I will jump in and clarify. You know, I think you know, the time that it's taken has kind of we've lost some time on making this viable for a number of factors. Obviously, one of them being graduation, moving. And we do think there's opportunity here going forward. It's obviously our front door, and I think it's healthy to have a reevaluation of the use of the lot. You know, we've been asked to do a lot. We've jumped in and done a lot. And I think in a lot of ways, we still feel like there's a need for this safe outdoor programming. And so it's a little bit unfortunate to have the construction, you know, kind of default as the priority. But it is what it is, and we're okay with it. We've got plenty of other projects and ways to use our time, that's for sure. I think, you know, understanding what the volume of the parking is and how there could be some maybe shared resource on use of that, because I do think it is a super valuable space. And, you know, a lot of what we're looking to do is nighttime evening programming. And I know Mitch talked about those daytime hours when the town is full, and I think there's potential to have some shared resources. We also do have the two other SKICO lots at Buttermilk, which we had offered up as part of a solution there. And so I think, you know, if it's a one date here and there, maybe there is an opportunity. And look, we have no idea what the future of the pandemic holds once we do hit peak capacity here this summer. And I hate to see there being a need for this outdoor programming and us not being able to do it. But you know, I think all things considered, this isn't something that we, you know, it cost us a lot of money and a lot of time to do, and we did it kind of for a community benefit for outdoor safe programming. So, you know, we see the writing on the wall with it, but, you know, would like it to make sure it just gets monitored moving forward so the best use is made of that space.
Mm-hmm. And
Derek and Joey, this is Mitch. If you guys want to reach out, maybe meet out there next week and talk about what some options might be, because I can push the trucks one way or another in that big lot that may give you some opportunity. Again, I'm happy to help where I can. So, but I think we should meet out there again later this week or early next week, because I have a lot of requests already for people to put trucks out there. And if I can push them, you know, for construction staging one way or another that gives you an opportunity to do something, I'm happy to help from my end. So, but I think we should meet out there so I can see what space works best for your team.
And Greg, I'll come to you, but Derek, I did have a question based on your comment is, you know, what, you know, I hear your concern about timing lost. What is the best timing to convene these conversations for this type of programming? So next year, you know, you don't have that worry and it's just on everybody's calendar.
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think, you know, probably if we can have it settled in April, you know, I think you know, when we initially met a few weeks ago, if we had everyone at the table, that would have probably been where we needed to be. But we've lost, you know, a couple of weeks since then, you know, and it's not, you know, it's all the factors going together, right? And we get busy within the winter season and we want to get as far ahead of planning. And so I think, you know, just a little bit further ahead, but there's a lot of stuff that we're getting reached out to. You know, people are reaching out, and there's a lot of artists and film tours that are not going to indoor venues that are looking at that we're just going to, you know, we're not going to be able to facilitate because we're not going to have a setup there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Derek and Joey, thank you for coming back to us. I really regret this. I wish I'd been part of those conversations weeks ago, because I think I would have been pushing pretty hard. I guess one of my questions is, and maybe it's just a rhetorical one, is what's our obligation for the construction community of Aspen to use this resource that could possibly be a venue? And as Joey points out, and I have also, this was for Derek, you know, it is kind of part of our entrance. Is this the entrance of Aspen, an industrial zone where we park big trucks? You know, it's not ideal in my mind, and it's not desirable really either. But I also understand the necessity, and I appreciate you all deciding to withdraw your application. But I'm not happy about that. I'm wondering what does this say for the high school? Is the high school graduation still happening? That's happening. But just the other applications might not, unless you and Mitch reach an agreement of some sort that might allow something to go on this summer, which would mean playing, you know, shuffling things around. And I would encourage you to do that, and I'd advocate and help any way I could. That said, I don't like driving by Buttermilk and just seeing what looks like, you know, the outskirts of DIA or an industrial part of Denver out there. And I'm exaggerating, but not that much when it's just a big industrial truck parking area. So I'd love to see parking elsewhere, of course, but I don't know where that would be. So I understand why ski companies withdrawn, but I encourage you to keep going, and I really support what you were doing. Thanks.
Well, Greg, I want to push back a little bit because, you know, I mean, I'm not sure there aren't options for things. You know, it's not just trucks, right? There's days parking for the mountain bikers who want to go into Sky Mountain. There's our RAFTA riders who know it's a parking ride because it's not signed as a parking ride to get on the bus there. You know, so, you know, we prohibit 24-hour, you know, parking overnight at, or longer than 24 hours, I think, at Brush Creek Park and Ride. So our 4-pass loop folks don't have anywhere else to go, but that's, you know, maybe there is more flexibility than we are seeing in this situation, is what I would say. Cause I agree with you, you know, from a, you know, personal values perspective, I'd love to value arts over, you know, congestion in a way, but at the same time, all of that impact gets pushed onto residents' roads, and we will hear from that too. You know, those are the lessons learned that have resulted in this arrangement to stage vehicles. So, you know, you are talking about 4 separate lots, though. When you talk about that space, there's 4 separate parking lots, or maybe 5 there with ski companies additional. So it's a complicated thing. I wasn't referring to the shuttle parking, the RAFTA parking, but I get your point. Steve.
I like the use of Buttermilk actually as a venue area, and I'll bring back the idea of using the Powder Pandas Hill, even if it needs, you know, take a bulldozer out there, bring some dirt in, push it around, level it off, get some sod out there and start, and it takes a couple of years probably to get something just right. But for a long-term place for outdoor venue things, I think that is the best location that there is. And I would urge the ski company to, you know, pursue trying to just fix the ground on the ski run up for, you know, being able to do stuff there. Might not work for this summer, but I think for a long range plan, that could be the real solution.
Okay, other thoughts on this topic? Okay.
We will follow up on any one-off opportunities, or just like if there's a single thing on a date, we can check with Mitch, see if the lot's available, or we can reorganize some reservations for that day and make it work as a one-off pop-up. But, you know, we're not going to go for a 2 to 3. And I think we can just handle that with staff on a one-off basis. And then, you know, we won't be planning a 2 to 3 time per week series of any sort. So we'll work through any one-off opportunities and kind of keep that door open so it's not completely gone. And then I think, you know, we will certainly look towards the future and what opportunities down the road, whether it's on Panda Peak or other venues, because, last year it was drive-in by necessity, but there was a fair amount of nostalgia around it, and people really had fun with it. And so, and I do think, we're cognizant of all of the other activities and organizations that have events going on, and the need for an outdoor venue closer to town, because the ones that we have are not filling all of the needs and requests. So stay tuned on that for sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and thank you, staff, for bringing this forward to us. All right.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, with that, we're kind of back on track here. So let's go back to future agendas, and then we'll do open discussion. And again, I'm going to try and get us done right at 4:30. Future agendas. Phyllis, do you have anything?
I have 2 items. One, Charlotte's asking about the CCI Summer Conference, which is June 9 in Vail. And this Thursday, I guess maybe this Friday, the 7th, is the end of the early registration. So if anybody wants to go, Francie, I think you've already responded to Charlotte that you want to go in person. So that's that if anybody else wants to go to get to Charlotte. Another one for you, Francie, the Scenic Byways meeting this week, which I think might be tomorrow. They have added you to the list for in person. So I just got the email 3 minutes ago, so I'm glad this all got delayed. And that's all I have.
Okay, so let's check in on CCI conference. I don't know, Steve, do you have interest in attending?
Well, I would like to attend, but I realized if I go and Francie goes and you go, Kelly, in person, typically only 2 of us would be gone at that. The other commissioners then would hold the meeting in person in our meeting room, and business went on as usual. If 3 of us are over there, we could conceivably just do a Zoom call with people being in Vail instead of here and hold our regular meeting and do business as usual. But if we end up doing Zoom calls, I'm more almost of a mind to stay at home and attend the CCI by way of Zoom in order to then dedicate being at our meetings on Tuesday and Wednesday, the BOCC meetings. So it's just kind of the logistics of having us over there in person. It's definitely a good conference to be there in person, because a lot of what happens is not in the meetings but out in the hallway and around the dinner table and whatnot, talking and meeting with people. So I'm kind of torn on which way to go myself, whether to go in person to Vail or not. And so are we going to hold our regular meeting that Wednesday? Are we going to hold the work session on that Tuesday if 3 of us are over at CCI, for example?
Right.
That's the big question.
Greg, did you have thoughts, or were you interested in attending?
My thought, no, I'm not interested in going. But certainly, I think you could, if you decided to go, you could always attend via Zoom. Doesn't matter where you are now, right? So, Steve, doesn't matter to me where you are in that case. So you'll have to figure that out on your own. But I think that if Francie and Kelly were to go, is that the idea, in person? Is that what we're talking about here?
Well,
I have no desire to go, so I'm fine. But I'd like to hold our meeting so we don't get farther behind.
Yeah. I mean, I would defer to Steve because he's the CCI rep, on his preference. For me, the conflict is that Wednesday, I don't have a conflict. I wouldn't plan to go to the meetings that are on the agenda. I wouldn't plan to go to the CCI meetings on the Wednesday agenda. But on Tuesday, the meetings that I would want to go to directly conflict with our meeting. So regardless of if I was in person or if I was on Zoom, it wouldn't be possible to be on 2 meetings at once anyway. And I'm a little concerned because, I do want to go because it actually is a good agenda this year. I find it to be a good agenda this year. Talking about short-term rentals and equity. And what was the third thing that looked interesting? And the American Rescue Plan funding. However, I notice on our future agenda, it says do not move because there are invited guests. And so I guess it would be helpful to know how fixed that is or not, or if, there is some flexibility there, which is all to say I don't have a fully concrete answer at this point anyway. Let me look again here. Yeah.
Unknown caller.
Oops, sorry. Potential spam is calling me. So to say that is, we don't have a very busy agenda on the 8th. If it is possible to move the wildfire preparedness discussion, is there support from the board to do that or not?
Kelly, if it allows you to attend the CCI things that you really want to be at, by moving the wildfire preparedness, I'd say let's make that happen. I don't know which invited guests we would be putting out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'll suss that out with Charlotte, and then she can email out to the board. Or we can talk about it at later future agendas. If that's amenable, then we would just cancel the rest of that, reshuffle the items to a different day for Tuesday the 8th, but we would continue to hold our meeting on Tuesday the 9th. Or Wednesday the 9th, sorry.
And then I think what I would do, depending on the Wednesday morning at CCI, if it's really nothing I wanted to attend in person, I could just drive back over here to be home in a more comfortable place for our meeting. Or if I was attending CCI over there on Wednesday morning, I would just stay over there, find a quiet spot that I could be on a Zoom call for the regular meeting on Wednesday afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Francie? You're muted.
If it's between you or me going, and my going means you can't go, then I would definitely, give it to you to go, and we could have 3 people back in Aspen. But I'm planning on staying at my daughter's house in Avon, Steve, so we could together go there and attend the meeting back in Pitkin from a nice quiet house that's really close to where the conference is. So if that's of interest to you.
That'd be awesome, Francie. And, it would be valuable if you and I both were there in person at CCI, because I could introduce you to people, and it really is beneficial to be there in person, just to meet people in person and talk about any number of things.
I tried looking at the agenda. It's not very well developed yet. So it's not like we can look at it and say, oh, I definitely want to be at this and this and this. They just sort of have a general.
It's what happens out in the hall, to me, is more important sometimes than what's happening in the speakers in the meetings, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Greg?
I was just going to say, I guess I don't have as much of a fascination with CCI, clearly. But looking at our agenda for Tuesday, June 8th, we do have wildfire preparedness, which I'm going to put at probably the highest priority for our county to address. So I think we need to have that meeting, and I don't want to delay it. And what follows after that is community development long-range planning update, which I think is another very important thing that we should be doing. And So I just want to underscore the importance of those. I think that the June 8th wildfire preparedness program might include, and it's very late, we're down to the wire, but there was a state grant application that's got to go in fairly soon. Our fire district is applying, some of our neighborhoods are applying, and this could include an update on that from Valerie, but I'm not certain. But I just want to say, I think this is where the important work is being done, and you know, I guess CCI could wait, but that's my own bias. Thanks.
Steve.
So just wondering if Valerie and our guests would be prepared to do that earlier, perhaps on May 18th or May 25th. I realize you're gone May 25th, Greg, but maybe we could move it sooner than it was scheduled for.
That's worth a try, definitely. Because I know it certainly seems important, and you know, she may be able to tell us just how important it is to go earlier. But it occurs to me that might be an important thing for her.
Okay. All right, I've got your input. I will talk with Charlotte about the June 8th agenda and see how those items might be shuffled, and then I will, taking your input into account, decide whether or not it's important enough to move anything, or if it's not possible, then it's fine. Yeah, I'm happy to be at this meeting rather than CCI. Yes.
Kelly, was there, we just talked about adding something to the agenda, something we talked about today.
I know. I don't think we're done with future agendas. We're just done with Phyllis's portion of future agendas. I have a whole list.
I just want to make sure whatever that was, we try and get it on a future agenda.
Yeah. So, you know, usually I defer to other board members on future agenda, but I'm happy to jump in with my own too. Some of them are following up on requests that you all have made to figure out when we might schedule some things. So one of those, I'll just go through my list. So the River District, Francie, you'll have seen a note. I have reached out to the River District to try and schedule them for this month. They may have some conflicts, but I had communicated with them previously that I wanted us to be able to look at the water plan updates to identify areas of mutual interest. And so I got that last week, and I emailed them yesterday to say I got that, and I think it'll help shape our agenda. And so John Ely and I are going to be working together to send a proposed agenda to the River District, and they're sending us some Tuesdays that would work for them for work session. Short-term rentals, Francie, I know you've been asking, and so when I met last week with John Ely and Cindy Hubin, we talked about timing on bringing forward the short-term rental licensing program, and they think end of June, July should be when they can propose that to us for review.
Okay.
Airport, so I don't know, is John Ely on here, but Phyllis, I'd like to, with you and Rich and John Peacock and John Ely, schedule some executive session time related to, the airport process and our strategies for that. And so that would be great if we could get some more time on exec for the airport. And then, constrained site TDRs. So again, I brought this up with John Ely and Cindy Hubin last week when I meet with staff to review our agenda for the following week and future agendas. We had a robust conversation. I think some of the feeling was that, you pull the thread of TDR in one place and it has implications for other places. And so the recommendation there was to have that as a comprehensive conversation. And for example, Greg, I would say, part of the discussion was if you have a partial TDR program, does that mean less land gets preserved? Because now on the market, there's essentially more things people can buy rather than being able to only buy one large chunk that a TDR represents, was kind of one of the unintended consequences Anyway, so I'm happy to talk more about that now, but that was, the recommendation was to, you know, wait until we have that broader conversation with growth management in the fall. And I don't know if that satisfies you at all. There are a lot of issues. I'm happy to chew the fat on them with you, but yeah,
right.
Go ahead.
I just, the only thing that occurred to me is I remember Leslie said something sort of ominous, that there were a lot more constrained site TDR applications in the pipeline, and if they can all wait until fall, then I guess I can too. I just want to make sure we're out ahead of it. I can't imagine the same sort of circumstance coming up again, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it would. And so I do think it needs to be addressed, and if it has to be done as a package with everything, I'll go with the expert's opinion on that, but I don't want to push it off too far.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I share your concerns. I see Cindy is still on here, so I do want to make sure I'm presenting the conversation I had with her appropriately. Cindy, if you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think you did, Kelly. I think you represented it well. We know that the public is very concerned about the TDRs, and having that conversation as a whole, like you said, there are bits and pieces that are all woven together, and if we start to bifurcate it in one way or another, I think there'll be a lot of confusion, number one, and number two, I think we won't get the same participation that we would later in a larger conversation. Greg, relative to your concern, we do hear people requesting, the constrained lot TDRs, but I'd just like to remind the board that those are at your discretion. When you review those, there are criteria, but they're at your discretion if you, in fact, don't feel that, an application warrants a full TDR, then I think, that's another look at the way we review transferable development rights with constrained lots. So I think I covered it. We would definitely recommend that we look at it as a whole.
So you're suggesting what you just said about constrained lot TDR conversation should be part of the larger conversation and not something we could do. Okay, I wasn't sure if that's where you were getting. Okay, so if it has to be part of the larger conversation, what I was just hoping is that we would have a broader, more equitable, for use of the word, palette of options when we're faced with, a situation like the recent one we had.
Right, and I think that's the total discussion of how to potentially recraft the program.
Yeah. Francie.
One possibility would be to table any applications we have, like we wanted to do last time, Greg, and force them to wait until we've had the discussion, I guess, if we could get 3 votes.
Okay. That was my future agenda items. So they're on my running list. I'm making sure we calendar them as based on these discussions. So Steve, go ahead.
So I want to tell you all that I'm going to be out of the state for the month of July. I'm going to Alaska to be at my daughter's. I will be on Zoom calls. I can attend the meetings. If perchance that you all start, we start having our meetings in person with all of us in the meeting room during July, then I would still have to attend by way of a Zoom call. And I don't know what our plans are at this time. I have a feeling that Zoom capability might be a permanent fixture in our meetings going forward, because it seems to allow people to attend when they can't be there in person for whatever reason. So anyhow, I will be up in Alaska for a whole month, but still able to attend the meetings. I'll have a different backdrop.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Good to know. If there's no other future agendas, let's move on to open discussion. And if we have time, a COVID-19 update. Any open discussion items?
I'll be really quick on the COVID-19 update. Board of Health meeting next Thursday on the 13th, so staff are working on a recommendation there. I'm not sure the timing of the appointments and where the elections will need to be for a chair with your appointments today, so that'll have to get figured out. Our state incident rate, we are one of 3 counties in the green right now. We've been in the green for 4 days. We'll continue. If we stay in the green for 7 days, then we will make that move. There's not a lot of difference between the green and the blue, but it does have capacity changes, increases for certain industries. Our communication team has been doing Mythbusters, and they're just getting put together. Dr. Levin and a local OBGYN did some 2-minute videos that you'll see on social media, in our newsletter, and what's going on. Right now, we're working on the changes in our vaccination plans. Since the Mass Clinic closed, all the second doses that were due from people who received first doses at our Mass Clinics are being scheduled in various locations as we can put it together. This Friday will be at the high school, which was when we did the majority of those teen kids, the 16 and 17-year-olds with the Pfizer, so they're going to be at the high school. Most likely there'll be another clinic next week at the high school, and then we have one at the Buttermilk parking lot. So I was interested in your parking lot conversation. That I think is May 20th, and those are the Moderna second shots that people also received at the Mass Clinic. So we're trying to get out of the first big clinic, although we're watching what's happening with Pfizer and the 12 to 15-year-olds and what's going to happen with approval there. So maybe we'll be here and there having some bigger clinics. We're also looking at the lodging group is looking to have their employees be able to get vaccinated at one time. And an advantage for employers, if people are vaccinated, they do not have to quarantine if they are exposed to a COVID-19 person who's positive. So that's huge. So that's kind of a really quick rundown. Oh, with our incident rate, just have to say we had no cases in 6 days. So that's why we're so low. I'm not sure who left town, but somebody left town. But I think we had 1 case that showed up today, but we had 6 days of no cases. So that's pretty notable. We were the only county in red for a while, and now to be one of the only 3 counties in green, we certainly know how to swing around. So that's all I have.
Great. Thanks, Phyllis. Steve.
So when I was in Moab last week, well, we were camping in the national park, but then we went through Moab. I found out that their county there is the highest incident rate in Utah. And judging by the number of people from Pickens County who go to Moab for, desert getaway kind of things, I wouldn't be surprised if some people are bringing the virus back from there to here. So just be forewarned on that. When people's spring trips are over and they're coming home, we're liable to see an uptick again and some people coming down with a positive test.
All right, we'll hope not. Greg.
I just forwarded some letters that I'd received. One just articles about quarantines, and mostly about school districts and quarantines. And so I've sent that to Phyllis and to Charlotte and the board. Jeannie Siebold on our Board of Health has been following up with the school board and the school district, and they're just concerned about the way the quarantines are working. A lot of kids have been quarantined multiple times, and they're very concerned about the effects of it. So a letter has been written by several school boards, districts on the Front Range, and I think several Western Slopers signing on to CDPHE to please take another look at quarantines with school districts and what are the obligations and restrictions. So I just shared those with you, so you can be part of that conversation. I'm guessing, Phyllis, you may have already seen that letter that I think it went out on the 26th. Otherwise, you'll get a chance to see it now. But I'm guessing that's going to be on a part of the conversation on the 13th or whenever our Board of Health meeting is. So just wanted to put you all in the loop on that.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, other open discussion items from the board. Francie.
Yeah, when I went to the fire mitigation tour just north of Swiss Village, I spoke with Kevin quite a bit about his idea about continuing mitigation throughout the county and how perhaps we could put a small committee together with Bill and Tori and one of us and maybe a couple of other entities, and so that we could pinpoint the areas that really need it the most and talk to the people there and try to designate some more fire mitigation efforts sooner rather than later. So I don't know whether, I know you have to go today, so I don't know whether this is a good time to talk about it, but I think it would be really helpful to Kevin if he had a smaller group that he could work with to make this happen.
Okay. Thanks, Francie. And yeah, we have a few minutes. Greg, go ahead.
I certainly would be in favor of that. I did want to point out that the fire district has been developing a map, and it's a pretty sophisticated mapping device where any homeowner in the county can go online and look at their property and look at what the relative fire danger rating is, red, green, and blue, or red, green, and yellow, or something like that. Mm-hmm. So some of these assets already exist, and I think in the next conversation, the fire districts ought to be included in that as well, because a lot of that work has been done, Francie. But I agree. Let's focus some light on these areas and see what we can possibly do. And it may come down to supporting Valerie in her efforts, looking for money. As we hear, there's some fire mitigation money on the table from the state, and that we may be called upon to put something in to help boost the fire mitigation, whether it's providing the chipper again as we have, or matching funds for fire mitigation, something like that. I think we should contemplate that. The cost of prevention is so much cheaper than the fix when it's on fire.
Okay. I think he's thinking too that we would have more weight in convincing neighborhoods to allow the work to be done, because there is a lot of resistance to taking things down that you like to have around your house. So I'll meet with Kevin again because I want to talk with him anyway about the ATVs in Marble. So why don't I have one more conversation with him and I'll bring this back to you guys. And then I just wanted to let you know that I met with Brian Pettit this last week on Prince Creek Road to talk about what we can do about no, I think that came from, I see. Sorry. To talk about the danger at the corner there at the Flying Dog on Prince Creek Road, which has been created by the increase in biking on the road. And it's really, really scary. So Brian is putting in a counter and speed gauge machine so that when we bring it to you guys, we'll have some data, but it'll be coming soon to do something there. We've talked a little bit about what that might be. And then I went to the meeting this morning in Gunnison County by Zoom, and of course, before they actually got to the conclusion, they had put it at the end of the meeting instead of where it was scheduled at the beginning. So I had to come to our meeting, but I did hear from Terry Havens that they voted to postpone a vote on the resolution, and Liz Smith was very vocal about how she wants to support the people who are being bothered by the ATVs, and that she couldn't just pass a resolution without somehow finding a way to meet the needs of the people of Marble. And she really stood her ground. She was great. And but there was a really good explanation by Jonathan at the beginning about the history and how when they first passed it, the ATVs were not as prolific and they weren't as big and loud as they are now. I think the new ones are called Razors with the ride along and everything. And also he made quite a plea to say that they can't do it by themselves. They have to, the Forest Service has to be involved. So just putting them on County Road 3 will, and he didn't say this, but somebody else said, could possibly lead to ATVs finding other ways to get up into the Forest Service where it's not currently banned. And there were quite a few references to Pitkin County and how apparently, of course, I don't know this, but these people did, how Pitkin County has worked it out, I guess, with the Forest Service, that roads that are designated for Jeep travel can have Jeep travel, but not ATV travel, which was interesting. So I'm going to talk to Kevin about that as well. But anyway, there was no, you couldn't talk, but you could write in the chat. So all the people that were there were not able to speak, but so there was quite a bit of chatting. And so they did not vote on the resolution today.
Okay. Thanks for the update, Francie. Steve?
So I had written a personal letter to the commissioners asking, suggesting that they not take a vote, that they work with the stakeholder group that's been trying to come up with some solutions before they make a decision on that Daniels Hill stretch of the road. I also got an education being down in Moab for a couple of days because they are just being overrun by these great big OHV things that are, 4-passenger thing. They're as big as a Jeep. One of them was made by Ford, I think. It looks just like all the others. And depending on who is driving it, they can be very quiet as they drive down the streets in Moab, or they can be really loud. It all depends on who's driving it and how kind of aggressive of a driver they are. But Moab, the noise to them is the huge issue, and I look forward to the day when all of the ATVs and OHVs are all electric and very quiet, and maybe most of the problem will disappear, or some of the problem will disappear at that time. Not the resource impact in the backcountry on the dirt roads and in the backcountry of the Forest Service land will still be heavily impacted by them. So,
or the dust, the human waste along the road.
Yeah, lots of impacts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote to them each individually also. It was interesting.
Okay, other items for open discussion. Okay, thanks for letting me move us along. Great to see you all, and we will see you next week. Same time, same place. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for watching. Again, it's Public Service Week. We love our employees. We're so grateful for everyone who is in public service. I think what a great time to do citizen board applications, too, today. So thank you. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Grassroots. Take care.
Thanks. Take care.